Directing traffic, gonna go deep, has a man deep, it is caught for the touchdown, Corey Davis!
What does he do? Attacks leverage. If he's outside leverage, he doesn't want you to beat him outside. So stem towards him, hold him outside, stamp outside. Drive face, full cell vertical, get into the blind spot, and he absolutely burns him. Corner is lost. He literally has no idea where Wilson is.
Really high floor, really high ceiling. We could be talking about the best corner in the league. Sauce can do that.
This is actual film. This is actual football talk. It's a football show. We're supposed to talk football, not storylines.
And you are listening to another edition / watching another edition of Blewett Blitz. A great week, Kyle. A great couple of weeks. Devils at the top of the NHL, or one of the top teams in the NHL. Jets are winning, 20-17 victory. But to introduce my co-host, a guy who I enjoy his presence, but not at Jets games because I have a lot better time when you don't go to Jets games with me. Kyle Smith, what is up, man?
Yeah, it seems like you're having the time of your life at all these games I'm not at with you. Packers game, you're skydiving and celebrating afterwards and stuff. Then this game, you're doing the JETS, Jets chant, holding up Vinny on top of your shoulders on top of a Jets bus. You know, when I'm with you, you're just sitting on your phone the whole time. Distraught.
Yes. With victory cigars. We need to have our victory cigars.
Man, we need to get Wilson, man. Derek Carr, man. I'd make a trade for Derek Carr.
Yeah. We had our victory cigars, which was very nice as well after that game. I hope I get to enjoy another cigar in a few weeks. I'm actually thinking about going to New England for the first time, but tickets are crazy, man. They're like 300, 350.
Yeah.
So if I can find a deal, I might go. And just in general, with like Italy to Chicago to Green Bay to skydiving to the game we went to last week, like just or 2 weeks ago, the game this week, like it's so many expenses. But the Pats tickets are absurd. But obviously a lot to talk about. Cool stat from Smini, who I know a lot of people hate, but nonetheless, the Jets are now 3-3 in games they trailed by double digits in this season, which is ridiculous after going 3-40 over the previous 4 seasons. Really cool stat to see. And obviously early on in this game, it was 14-3. And we're sitting there and we're thinking, okay, well, you know, they're somewhat competitive, but it's going to slip away probably. Getting, you know, kind of reality setting in that they're not going to beat the Bills, and then they come back. Obviously, hold the Bills to only 3 points in the second half. Offense gets clicking a little bit towards the end of the first half. Second half, it starts off clicking, and then Skycam incident, which was obviously brutal. And then right after that, false start, and you're like, shit. Von Miller strip sack, shit. And then obviously Sauce Gardner picks off Josh Allen, and we're back in the game after, or we're actually up at that point once James Robinson scores that screen. So really exciting game. I know Bills fans are bitching about PIs. They're bitching about injuries, which Jets fans have had the injury bug forever. And this year it hasn't bit us as hard, knock on wood, but we're still down to our 5th tackle, Bowie, whatever the hell his name is, playing Von Miller. So I wouldn't say we're necessarily at ideal strength either, but overall, Kyle, general thoughts on this game?
I think you have to be really happy. As you're, saying all that, and it was 14-3, and I was not expecting the Jets to win. I mean, I think the score that I predicted was like 30-16 or something like that. I was just happy that they were playing competitive, and you're never really happy with a loss, but if Wilson played okay, and some of the younger guys on the team played well, and the coaching showed good fight, we would have been realistically pretty happy with the game. We from the beginning of the season were pretty much every time we did like predictions, whether it was a couple weeks in preseason, when the schedule was first released, whatever, we were predicting the Bills to sweep the Jets. So the fact that they came out and got a victory is, and yeah, people, and I just watched your review and you were talking about how some Bills fans are bitching about their injuries. You could argue the Jets are even more banged up. Arguably, the Bills are missing some studs on defense, but Jets missing some studs on offense too. So it goes both ways. A win is a win. So yeah, you have to be really happy, man. And, I encourage everyone who's here right now, if you're already a member of jetsxfactor.com, cool. Go and watch Blewett's film review. If you're not, sign up for the free month. There's a lot of positives to take away from Zach Wilson in that game. And hopefully coaching, now you got a bye week, you got 2 weeks to prepare. This is, you get the whole extra time. So this first week of the bye week, you kind of assess what you've done so far already this season and say, okay, well, this worked, and this didn't work. How can we switch this? And Salah's already talked about, okay, we're going to play E more in the slot more. But it seems like the coaching staff says, okay, listen, Wilson, when we're doing a lot of shorter, quicker in rhythm throws, he doesn't have to think as much as you're saying. He's pretty damn good because he's got like one of the quicker releases in the NFL. He can throw from different arm angles, while he's still learning. You don't want him overthinking too much. He looked pretty damn good. So it's a positive sign that they kind of figured that out before the bye week, and now you can kind of build off that a little bit more. So I think you got to be really happy with how this game turned out.
Yeah, by the way, I know we're starting early. That is just for the purpose of we can actually push it to 3-ish hours. So I don't have to rush any topics. And if you want to bring up some film, we can bring up some film, which should be fun. Because I usually have it like a 2-hour limit, especially with work, until I come to the part of my schedule where I could stay up as late as I want. But nonetheless, do you have that feeling in like the back of your head now? Like that Pats game is a must win to me. But if they could have just pulled it out against the Pats, we'd be first in the AFC right now, 7-2. Because like obviously you're happy with the win, but you're like, God damn it! Like really, the freaking Pats held us back from being first place. And now I do think this game is
Pats.
I like obviously talking about this game coming up and the obviously the shit game against the Pats a couple of weeks ago. We said that the Pats was a must win. The Jets need to get to 6-4 after the bye. So. We said that that was the record to attain obtain after the bye week. But with that being said, is that game a must win now? Because if they can listen, like when we said it kind of before this game, like if they could beat the Pats, you're assuming. I know Justin Fields is playing better, but you're assuming they beat the Bears. You're assuming they beat the Lions. You're assuming they beat the Jaguars. They beat the Pats. They're at 10 wins. And the AFC is a little bit like, it's a little bit murky, but you still are competing with teams like the Chargers and the Ravens and the Bengals and even the Patriots and the Dolphins, all for, 2-3 spots.
It's crazy to think that all 4 teams could make the playoffs. That's never happened before because the 7-team playoff format has only been in effect for a couple of years now. But I mean, the Pats made it last year. The Dolphins, you can't tell me that they're not one of the better teams in the AFC East, especially when Tua is playing. And obviously everyone is picking the Bills to be like the Super Bowl favorite. And the way that the Jets are playing, I mean, like, listen, the Jets, you could argue, okay, they beat some lesser opponents in earlier weeks. That was a signature win right there. It was a signature win. So now they're for real. I mean, could all 4 of these teams honestly make the playoffs? Anyway, your question was about, and I know I cut you off. Sometimes I get excited. You were saying that, is it a must win? I mean, I don't think it's a must win, but damn, I mean, like it's a freaking really important game. The Jets still have a winning record in the division. The Bills are 0-2 in the division. They do have the win over the Dolphins. So, I mean, like, I wouldn't say it's absolutely must win. I mean, you're not realistically expecting them to win the division at this point, but if they do win this game, you basically have yourself in the driver's seat to win the division. Because, you have a better, you beat the Bills and the Dolphins head to head. So, they're basically going to control their own destiny in towards of winning the division.
Yeah. And obviously you go to 7-3 and then you talk about the Bears coming up and then you're going to assume that's going to be 8-3. But if you lose to the Pats, you're talking about 6-4. Then you have the Bears hopefully win that game. But then you have 2 tough games against the Vikings, who I think are a little bit worse than their record would indicate if you look at their schedule and some of how they won some of those games against some of the lesser teams in the NFL. But then you have the Bills away, which we don't know if Josh Allen will be back for that game, which we're assuming he will be at this point, but we never know. But yeah, 7-3 after the Pats week would be absolutely massive. So that's a game to me when they're with them being 5-4. You don't want to equal up with them and be like both 6-4, whatever the record would be. So I'm really hoping they could take that game. It's unfortunate they couldn't take the game that we were at, unfortunately, because you have some bad juju when you go to games. We can't go together anymore.
Question for you. But if you knew, okay, we have to split with the Pats, would you rather have a home game that you're there for, that you're enjoying in front of your own crowd, or would you rather beat them in Foxborough where you haven't won in over a decade? And it's the second game of the season, and the Patriots are, synonymous with, being so good at home in the latter part of the season. Like I assume that this crazy stat has somewhat been broken over recent years, but there was some crazy stat going back a couple of years ago, where they were like close to being like undefeated over the course of like many years in the second half of seasons at home. Like they were so good at home in later part of years.
Yeah.
So, I personally, I would rather have this game than the one that we were at, just when you think about it like that, just because we haven't won there.
I'd rather have the first one, so it takes the pressure off the second one, to be honest. But with it being said, if you just told me before the season, hey, win at home or win on the road against the Pats, I'd rather send 60,000 Pats fans home depressed back to their homes in Massachusetts than the 15 or 20,000 who drove to MetLife or whatever that game was, maybe 10,000. It was definitely nice to send the Bills home though. Like people were talking about, like talking shit to them, like sending them back to Canada and all this stuff. Long drive, high gas prices, like talking shit to a lot of the Bills fans. I was doing the Bills chant on top of the bus. Bills fans are going by, but some of them were accepting, some of them were not so accepting, but it was fun. Kyle, you have to log in and log out. You want to do that? I'll say hello to the chat.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Kyle will be back in a second. Say hello to some people in the chat. John Hassel, I saw him in here earlier. Jalil Crawford, what's up? Chris, fuck yeah. Oh, Kyle's in really quick. All right, there you go. That was like 2 seconds. Could have done that without even saying anything. Steven, what's up? Justin Sanders, Rob D. Are we doing percentage chance Zach succeeds 3.0? I think we should stay away from that. I think we should just take it game by game. I could tell you that if he continues to play the way he did that game and doesn't have many more of the Broncos game, Packers game, Pats, Broncos, Packers games, then we're talking, because that is a step up in the right direction. And Rob, the kind of extra question I was going to go into with Zach, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of like play by play and some more microscopic views of this game for Zach Wilson. But in terms of this game for his career, Kyle, do you think this is up there for him in terms of how he executed?
Off the top of my head, I'd probably say top 5.
Top 5. Yeah, no, I guess this season you're talking about this game and the Dolphins game being easily his best, right? And then I still think to me personally, and now I know there's people in the chat who were talking about the bounce back. That's part of why it was a good game. And in the film show I do the studs and duds, and I don't necessarily think he was the third best player of the game or the third best position group of the game. But I agree with Swolsey that based on the bounce back, he deserved to be in the studs, and this considered a really good game. But yeah, I would say the Dolphins game. You have the Bucs game, the Jags game. I know his stats weren't great that game last year, so I would say top 4. Is there a 15 I'm really missing?
Titans game. The Titans game was a bit erratic, but you had the high end plays. Yeah,
the processor's results there. I didn't like that game as much as some other people did. So I guess that would be like number 5. But I would probably put this, I would say, above the Jags game. Harder defense to go against. I know the Jags didn't have necessarily as much talent as he did.
Not only was it a bad team, but they had so many guys out because of the COVID protocol thing, if I remember correctly.
So then you're kind of stacking it up. Okay, so now you're into the top 3. Is this better than the Dolphins game, you would say? What do you think about
I think this was better than the Dolphins game. I think even with missing Milano, who's a huge loss, no Trey White, no Poyer, no Micah Hyde, I still think this defense is better than that Dolphins defense. And I think the Dolphins defense, I mean, losing – why do I keep forgetting his name? But losing the former Patriots head coach, who was the coach of the Dolphins since the 2019 season, their defense isn't as good. Brian Flores. Their defense isn't as good. And, Justin Fields shredded them up last weekend. So, I mean, Miami's got some players, but I think, Xavier Howard's probably on the back end of his career. Byron Jones hasn't really worked out for them. Christian Wilkins, good player, but a little bit definitely more one-dimensional than Quinnen Williams. But anyway, so this Bills defense, I mean, they're extremely well coached, and they usually don't make very many mistakes. Very few blown coverages if you watch them over the years. So I just think that like Zach took what was there. There was less missed throws in this game. I mean, he did have a couple, right? Like that one to Conklin. I mean, he couldn't really step in it. Part of it's on him though, because I think if he throws it with anticipation, that throw to Conklin.
Yeah.
He's not getting himself in the situation where the pressure comes in on him more, and then he couldn't step into the throw after that. So it is partly his fault. But even just from managing the game, like just like the knowledge at the end to, when he takes it on the option route, or excuse me, when he pulls it for the option run and staying in bounds, just felt like he managed the game pretty well too. There was a couple really nice throws in there, so I think I would put this game over the Dolphins game. What's your opinion on which one's better?
Yeah, I would say this game just because of the Dolphins game. Like, listen, and we're not doing the stat stuff, but like he had a couple of like nice checkdowns, nice mental process in that game, and his stats might have been better against the Dolphins. I forget exactly what they were, but a lot of his stats came from him hitting like a 60-yard wheel route or rail, whatever you want to call it, to Breece Hall. Like, it wasn't overly impressive. Like, it was solid, but
it was almost 80 yards.
Yeah. Okay. So I would put this as his second best game of his career, which again, we're talking about one of his worst games of his career versus the Pats. I would say Pats last year, Saints last year, the Pats game this year, the Broncos game. Like, there were some bad games, but for year two, considering all those circumstances, I would say that was the most negative I've been on Zach Wilson throughout any point in his career. So to come from one of the worst games of his career, if not the worst, considering the circumstances, to his second best, huge bounce back. And maybe it's a situation where, again, like they thought they could beat the Pats, where this game is more like underdog. But you also have to give credit to LaFleur, and he 100% ran more RPOs this game, a lot more short concepts. Like, how many like double slants, double outs, like how many easy concepts, spacing concepts did he run this game as compared to other games where you see a lot more deep concepts, whether it be dagger, crease, sail, flood, the cab concepts. You saw some of them this game, but this game was a lot more short stuff, RPO, getting Zach in rhythm. And when you have Zach Wilson who doesn't have to think and can just take advantage of his natural ability, we see this. So I think this is the way to build the offense, is to continue it like this, because at the end of the day, we're not the Chiefs. We're not the Bills. We don't have to rely on Zach Wilson throwing for 300 yards a game in year two. If he could throw for 150, 200 yards, be really efficient, and then you start to, you run 90% of these plays as short stuff, and then like Aaron Rodgers said, 3, 4, 5 times a game, roll him out, throw a deep shot, like the one he threw to Mims. Well, he didn't. It wasn't a rollout, but you know what I'm saying. Throw those 3, 4 deep shots, hopefully hit on 1 or 2 of them a game. Then you're talking about 150 yards and a touchdown, whatever he had. You hit 2 out of 4 of those deep shots, let's say, or a little bit deeper concepts, and you're talking about 250. But if you can be efficient in the underneath game, that yard per average and all that stuff goes up. All people like hump those stats and about, you have to be at 7 yards and all that. But I will take this Zach Wilson for the rest of the year. And then hopefully we continue to build and you see him more comfortable rolling out, running for yardage, which he did this game, which we didn't see him do in past games, which was very confusing. He picked up, I think, 2 first downs on the ground in this game. And he's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not any one of these guys, but he's in the at least top half of the league, top 10 in terms of mobility. So why not pick up 2, 3, 4 first downs a game? And then he rolls out and you have the threat of, oh shit, he could run, like we saw against the Jags last year, this game or in this game. And he could also chuck it 65 yards over your head. So we need a lot more of this of Zach Wilson, and with the roster the Jets have built, they have that flexibility. Like, he doesn't have to be a superstar and carry the team, because we have, which is ridiculously absurd to say, but we have a top 5 defense, if at least floating around top 5, I would say at this point. And let's face it, like, we're missing ABT, we're missing Breece Hall, some of our best players, but the offensive line still produced this game. And you have, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I guess, but you have Fant coming back, who I would assume is going to be the right tackle when he does come back, if he does come back after the bye week, or Mitchell, who you could argue, I know Mitchell is, relative to expectations, he was good, but he still wasn't good. So is he better than Ogwehi? Ogwehi didn't play too bad this game.
This was his best game so far.
So but go ahead, Kyle. Hit on anything you want. What I just said, we'll hit the chat again.
Yeah, I love what you said about, we'll take the Zach Wilson for the rest of the year. A lot of the quick game stuff, and you like it for so many reasons. I mean, like, let's be honest, teams were not respecting Zach Wilson in the quick game. Number one, because the Jets weren't very good at doing it. They didn't run it a lot. In terms of a play calling perspective, but number two, he just wasn't very good in that area. the earlier part of his career. He missed so many of those easy throws. But, if this is a sign of things to come, when you start doing it more, teams are going to play up closer and, they might start going, loading the box a little bit more or bringing that safety down a little bit more. And then you got you'd say you got one high safety on one side of the field. All of a sudden you could start taking shots on the other side of the field, right? Like it's going to open up some of the big stuff even more. And, just from the confidence perspective too, when he's playing confident, I think it makes it a world of difference. So yeah, we'll definitely take more of this all year. And yeah, in terms of his legs, he's definitely, like you said, top half in terms of using his legs and stuff. He's just got to get a little bit better with sliding. Right.
The one was pretty bad. The one was pretty bad.
Half-ass slide. What is that?
And that's the one thing too. Like I want to talk about. I know you're going to hit on something else there, but and the pocket presence was a lot better this game. Again, we'll get to individual plays, but he was much more confident in the pocket, stepping up in the pocket, not necessarily, having to get to the edge, which was great. But that's the thing I want. That's like one of the bigger steps in his development I want to see is when he gets into a funk, he's in a funk. Like it starts early and it carries throughout that game. So to be a good quarterback in the NFL, I know he has like the ability to bounce back or whatever people say, but he really doesn't. Like he is kind of mentally fragile. So you see him have hot streaks, have cold streaks, have hot streaks, but I want to see him be the quarterback where he could break a cold streak if he misses a pass 10 yards over a guy's head at the start of the game, because Broncos game, he started bad early and he was bad the entire game. The Pats game, people said he was good early. I don't think he was as great maybe as we thought going back to the film and watching that, Kyle. But even this game, like you started off, that first throw to Mims, like I was impressed by that throw to Mims. And if Mims doesn't get, bowed out as much as he does to the sideline and doesn't necessarily worry so much about getting contact with that corner, you're talking about a throw in the bucket to Mims for 50 yards. That was pretty much couldn't walk it into a better spot. So that right off the jump was like, okay, damn, like we're talking a little bit here, because that's a good throw. Obviously, it was after a 4-yard loss or something like that to Michael Carter or James Robinson. So we're talking about 3rd and 14. They didn't convert. But nonetheless, I want to see him kind of break his cold streaks a little bit better. But I got
stringing together several good, impressive starts. Right. Mm-hmm. And that'll really give us confidence for the future. Not like, okay, like this is a pretty good game. And then he goes and has a horrible game. And it's like, okay, well, we still have so many question marks. My thoughts on the whole Mims thing. And it's that, and by the way, Mims, I believe was one of your duds that you said in your film review. When he
had very good blocking. He had very good blocking.
He did.
Okay.
And the catch at the end is pretty good, although he takes the route too vertical. But by the way,
and he caught it with his body, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but he seems to be playing a little bit more confident. But yeah, man, I loved his hands, but his hands been a little bit suspect. But anyway, I was thinking so this guy, he was 2nd, 3rd string all training camp and stuff. So Zach, really so much of, especially throwing deep balls, so much of it is just like chemistry between the receiver and timing. So you feel like so they're saying Denzel, he's definitely got a role with this team going forward. So you have to think that eventually with those two working with each other more, that chemistry is going to build more. They didn't even play with each other a ton last year. I guess at least not in meaningful games. And Denzel was, Denzel last year. So I feel like that relationship will only get better too. So listen, there's a lot of positives to take out of this. We'll attribute that one to timing and stuff, and Mims, I don't know, having a brain fart.
Positive steps for Mims. I think he will be part of the rotation, but at the end of the day, could have caught that ball. Should have ran a little bit better of a route. The ball that was high to him, it was a little bit high. He got 2 hands on it. You'd like to see him catch that ball, and he times his jump pretty poorly, in my opinion, on that one. And then the throw at the end of the game, he runs a slant. He gets physical. That's good. He did take it too vertical, and he did catch it with his body, which gave the cornerback an opportunity to deflect that ball away. If he flattens it out and attacks it, it looks a lot better than it necessarily was. But still, positive steps. I'm just not saying it was an elite breakout Mims game like some others are saying. And to be fair, with this game, you beat the Buffalo Bills at home, a Super Bowl favorite. It's hard to pick out duds. It's not like I was saying he's terrible. But I'll be using my duds. Maybe he was in my bad from the offense. I don't know. But nonetheless, Murdog, the only good thing about the Florida Storm is that I get to be here live with my guy Joey Breakdowns to celebrate the huge dub. Take flight, bitches. Haven't seen Murdog in a little bit, but I appreciate it, Murdog. I don't think the storm was as bad, right, as the last storm. So I think people in Florida are going to be relatively fine. Hopefully you repaired your house or whatever before this storm comes, because then I can make it a true bitch. John Hassel, Tomahawk's about to go on the charcoal grill. So John Hassel is celebrating with some tomahawk steaks, which I think I've only got one tomahawk steak. It's like $160 when I was on a my honeymoon. It wasn't. I can go to places by me and get a steak for $25 that was just as good. So maybe a little bit overrated, but then again, it depends on who's cooking it, right? So let's see. Okay, we have an account that's for commenting to Blewett specifically. That's the account name, Kyle. Account for commenting to Blewett.
I laughed at that one as well.
I feel like I'm obligated to answer all these questions. But we have to catch up to the chat, so let's keep going. I'm super curious how you guys see the wide receiver rotation playing out going forward. Big 11 personnel with CD and Mims. Are we dressing 6? Lots of possibilities. We can hit on that. We'll hit on some storylines and some general chat stuff, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of position by position. So Kyle, how would you answer that question?
Dressing 6. That seems like a lot. I don't know how necessary that is. I don't know about wanting. I mean, listen, they have to have I think they have to have a very balanced approach of 11 and 12 personnel, because right now the combination of Conklin and Uzomah is pretty good, right? Uzomah's, finally starting to settle into his role. Conklin previous week against the Patriots had a big receiving game. You want the both of them on the field a lot. This team wants to run the football. And if you're going to have Zach Wilson in this, quick rhythm passing game, you're going to need to have balanced runs off it, because in with the quick passes, one thing that Zach Wilson has done pretty damn well all year is throwing off RPOs. So you do want some bigger personnel in there. I feel like dressing 6 is too much on game day. What do you think?
Yeah, especially with the fact that you have, let's be positive and assume that Mitchell and Fant come back after the bye week. Then you're talking about CD, Mitchell, and Fant, all guys have to get activated. How many guys are you benching? Like who are we taking off the roster? So let's assume they keep 5, Kyle. We're going to see, obviously it's going to be, you're going to have CD, you're going to have Moore, you're going to have Barrios, you're going to have Garrett Wilson. So it really comes down to, is it going to be Mims or Jeff Smith? I know Jeff Smith's like a special teams guy, but I would keep Mims over Jeff Smith. Jeff Smith's on the bench. He's inactive. And I do think that in some run sets, they do have a heavier 11 personnel set, because obviously with the outside zone, it's important for your wide receivers to block, and Mims and Corey Davis are both very good blockers. And we talk about Mims, and yeah, he had 2.5 drops, 3 drops this game, whatever you want to say, a false start. But he also did block very, very well. Like we can't discredit that he did block good in this game. So that's part of this offense. You're talking about an offense that, you want to be balanced, but I would say the running game is the strength of this offense at this point in time. Hopefully it becomes a passing game. But Mims can obviously aid to the running game as well. So I think you run some bigger 11 personnel at times. I think it's not going to be as often as some people think it is, where it's going to be Mims, Corey Davis, Wilson, because listen, at the end of the day, Elijah Moore is a better player than Denzel Mims. Like he needs to be, on the field. But I can see it sometimes. I just think Mims' snap count obviously goes down drastically when Corey Davis is back. So Kyle, kind of a 2-parter for you. If you had to say, or actually 3-parter, is it 5? Is it Mims over Jeff Smith? How much does he play when Corey Davis comes back? And then past that, with Mitchell and Fant, let's assume they come back. Like, who are the 3 players we're removing off the active roster right now?
I think it has to be Mims over Jeff Smith, because Mims seems to be the replacement for Corey Davis. And we were talking about that ever since last year, before Corey Davis went down with, the big time injury. And the thing with Jeff Smith is, part of the reason you have him on the team is so he can run some gadget end around type of stuff, potentially throw the football. So he's more similar to some of those other players, but there's no way you're dressing him over Moore or Barrios. Right. So, and certainly not Garrett Wilson, and certainly not Corey Davis. So yeah, I think he seems to be the odd man out. Listen, Jeff Smith, he'll show you some positive things every game. He had a nice catch last week. Decent catch this week.
He looks like Elijah Moore so often. He really does.
He does. And he's a better blocker than Elijah Moore for damn sure. But again, you're still not dressing him over Elijah Moore.
No.
So he seems to be the odd man out. What was the second part of the question?
How much do you think Mims plays?
Yeah, it has to be a lot less, unless he comes out and starts playing like a beast. I mean, like in a we never expected it to happen after what we saw last year, and there's been some positive signs this year, but it's still not the Denzel Mims that we expected after watching his college tape and after watching his year one tape.
Mm-hmm.
If he started to play better and outplay Corey Davis, it would make sense to go to him because eventually you could get out of that Corey Davis contract. And then, Mims is the younger guy and eventually, you could look to pay him, but I just don't see it happening. So, he'll have a role if he starts to let's say he gets 15 to 10 snaps a game in the coming weeks when Corey Davis is back. If he starts to make a lot out of those snaps, then you might start to see him get a bigger share of the load.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say like 7 to 10 snaps maybe, which people are going to maybe think is a little bit crazy, but what role does he play in this offense with Corey Davis out? I know there's like the Mims truthers out there, but realistically, you're having Elijah Moore over him. You're having Wilson. You're having obviously Corey Davis. Maybe they run some 10 personnel. Maybe they go empty. He sees the field a little bit, but it better not be empty on 3rd and 2 like they did in some prior weeks. But I'd anticipate like 7 to 10 snaps a game, initially. Then if he starts to step up, then he gets a bigger role. But he filled in for CD, and now CD is going to be back. So I think he's going to be pretty much relegated to the bench. But with that being said, going from inactive and not playing for weeks and weeks and weeks to getting 7 to 10 snaps in a game is obviously an upgrade. It's not what we wanted from Mims coming out of Baylor and what we thought after year one. But if Mims can develop into a solid number 4 receiver for us, then we're talking like that's another piece to this team, because then you're pretty happy with your 5 with obviously the 5 they would have. I don't have to go through it, but with Barrios being your 5, it's a good receiving core. So if you don't have to add to that group next year, we'll see what obviously happens with Elijah Moore. But it's good question.
It's so interesting, like how much top heavy, like in terms of top level talent, like you're talking the Jets actually have like some potential superstars now. Like Sauce is a budding superstar. Quinnen Williams is a superstar. Like they actually have some of those right now. Garrett Wilson could very well be. Breece Hall, I think, is a superstar at running back already. Crazy to say that. And then there's some other guys who could be. But I think one of the reasons this Jets team is so much better is more so than the superstar top end guys is they just have so much better depth than they had during like those McCagnon years and even like the early Joe Douglas years and even like the Tannenbaum years, especially the later Tannenbaum years. Like this team has depth.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah,
and
running back,
the NFL
receiver.
It's such a violent game. On any given week, you could lose a good player or a decent player. Who's going to step in? And it's nice to see that they got some guys who could step in. Anyway, I'm pretty pumped.
Receiver got better depth than past years. Running back for sure. James Robinson would be our number 1 easily when Frank Gore was our number 1. Tight end, you have better depth. Ruckert a few years ago would be automatically number 1. He hasn't dressed up for all but I think 1 game, maybe it was 2 games. I forget exactly.
By the way, why did they play Yeboah over him?
I have no idea. I could maybe it's a special teams things. I can't really say. I don't watch special teams enough to say that he has a role or not. But corner Eccles, a lot better than Bless on Austin, who was our number 1 a couple of years ago. So. Yeah, but keep going on. Alex Hunt, what's up? There was a lot of best in this game, best O&D coaching in this game as well. If you give credit to the coaches, Salah's being up there with a lot of these graphics from like Fox Sports and whoever else it is for Coach of the Year, which taking a team from, what were we last year? 3-14, 4-13 to a team that, Kyle, we can talk about this really quick too, and I'm already behind in chat a lot, which is typical, but this is why I started early because I want to be able to really get to all the questions and stuff. Coach of the Year, kind of skip that over that, but like talking about 10, 11 wins, is the expectations for this team at least 10 wins now? Like, are we, because I saw some predictions. I think Brady Quinn out there, like he's getting harassed, which by the way, bravo to Anthony. Was it Anthony Beck is his name, right? The tight end?
Yeah.
Anthony Beck, who completely roasted him in like the post game. I saw that clip on Twitter. But he predicted now the Jets are going to win 9 games. They're only win 3 more games this year. So would you be? It's crazy to be in the season. I say, hey, 9-8, we're going to be disappointed. But 9-8, I'm going to be disappointed.
9-8 is disappointing
because I don't think 9-8 gets you into the playoffs in the AFC. I know it's not as good as we thought it was, but you have the Chargers, the Bengals were sitting there at 5 wins. The Pats were sitting there at 5 wins. Like there's plenty of solid teams who are sitting there at 5 wins, who could have a second half like surge, or not necessarily the Pats, but I think they'll kind of dip down. But who's to say the Chargers aren't going to win a few more games, or the Bengals aren't going to get healthy and win a few more games? So I think 9 doesn't get you in, where 10 probably does. 11's a lock. So to me, the minimum now is 10 wins. Anything less than 10 wins, I'm disappointed. And again, it's looking at the schedule, seeing Bears, Lions, Jags, and you should not get swept by the Pats. That's 10 wins. And past those 10 wins, who's to say they can't steal one? If you want to label it as steal one in Seattle or the Vikings or in Miami. So let's get to 10, 11 wins. Fuck 9 wins.
Yeah, dude. Anything less than 10 wins is definitely disappointing at this point. We would have signed up for it at the beginning of the season easily. But at this point, yeah, anything less. The way I'm looking at it is like, realistically, you're shooting for the wild card. We're still thinking the Bills are going to get the division. I mean, it's just, good teams. They're consistently good over the course of the season. They'll probably have more wins than us. And they'll probably have more wins in the rest of the division. But the thing is okay, so there's only going to be one team that wins the AFC North. It's either going to be the Bengals or it's going to be the Ravens. Both of them beat us. So if it comes down to us having a tiebreaker with them, one of those teams, they're going to get the tiebreaker over us. Mm-hmm. The Pats already have the tiebreaker over us. So we must, that makes this game all the much more so a must win in that sense. The Dolphins, other than the loss to us, they are undefeated in the division, which goes a long way. So they could potentially steal a wild card bid over us. So a lot of these teams that we still have to play could get a wild card game over. So if we go 3-5 down the,
and I don't know if you mentioned the Pats too, but like, you don't want to get swept by the Pats and then have us both be at 6 wins. And you're talking about tiebreakers. Then you have 3, like, the Bengals, the Ravens.
That's my point. Yeah, that's my point.
Like,
is like some of these. So like Bengals or Ravens already got it over us, one of those wild card spots, if we have the same amount of wins. So if we go 3-5 down the stretch, who are some of the teams that we're competing with a wild card against? Pats, Dolphins, right? And then you already, like I already said, you have the Ravens or the Bengals. Like if they don't do good against the Pats and the Dolphins, if they go 3-5 down the stretch, you could be looking at, all those teams having tiebreakers over you. So they need to win. I
don't think 9 gets them in. I really don't. My expectation to start the year was 8. I said 8 wins, 8-9. I think once the season started, I was like, okay, 7-8. But now it's changed. Like you have opinions that change based on what you're seeing, and I think you're looking at a team that should win. I think 10 wins is probably my prediction right now. But I could easily see 11. Again, I expect them to beat the Pats. I expect them to win those 3 home games. And again, you're not gonna tell me that they cannot beat the Seahawks or the Vikings. There's just no way. The Vikings,
they're definitely more talented than the Pats. Like like, listen, the Pats outcoached them. Zach Wilson blew that game, and the refs helped out the Pats too. And JFM was an idiot. I mean, that was a legit call. He was an idiot there. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like who looked like the more talented team, you can't tell me the Pats looked like the more talented team. They weren't. No. And the Jets will have CD back, and they'll have Fant back, hopefully. The Pats will have back David Andrews, and they'll have back Barmore, I think. And I think Duggar was out as well. So they have some players back. But even with those players back, you're not going to tell me the Jets are still not a more talented team. So if they can handle business, they're going to go into the Foxborough. They're going to walk out 7-3. You should come home the next week, walk out of that game 8-3. And if you only win 9 games after being 8-3, we're really going to be disappointed. So it all starts, week by week. Realistically, so let's just beat the Pats. Hopefully that can go. I really want to. Swolsey, Kyle, did you watch the game with your brother? Kyle, did you watch the game with your brother? I probably watched, I don't know how many of the last Jets-Bills games with him. I didn't watch this one with him. I actually just didn't feel like going out. I don't know. I guess, he actually asked me if I wanted to go to the game. I was like, after what I saw last week, going tailgating for 3+ hours, 4 hours, whatever it is, and then, spending your whole day at the stadium to watch that performance, I was like, I can't do it 2 weeks in a row, man. What if he goes out and tosses 3 picks against the Bills? I'm going to be so depressed. So I was just like, I'm just going to chill home. Anyway, I'm glad I didn't watch it.
What has the communication been like with one Gary Smith? For people who don't know, he is a very large human being, so it adds to it. But he is a guy who is a very, very, very cocky Bills fan, like out there cocky. So when they lose, it's kind of nice to know that Gary is not happy. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, you should have seen him in Kansas City, man. He's dancing all up and down the aisles after they scored their last touchdown. He was pretty quiet after the Chiefs scored, though, and it went in overtime. But anyway, He was cool afterwards, at least to me. I don't know how he was with the rest of my family, but he texted me and said congrats, because my younger brother's also a Jets fan and my mom's a Jets fan too. So, and my dad's like, he's a Chiefs fan, but he roots for the Jets, when they're on too, unless they're playing the Chiefs. So, no, I didn't watch it with him, but I guess I'll watch the next one with him. I guess I have to, right?
Yeah. Blake says, I remember when you guys were way in capitalization, way ahead of schedule, or way ahead of the curve on Sauce as a realistic option at 4. So it's cool to see things come to fruition and us turn things around. Yeah, and I would say Sauce is, one of the best players on the roster. I can't say we expect him to be this good this fast. Some people have him in their.
I'm actually really not that
year.
surprised, Joe. I had him number 2 on the list.
Even though there are some plays, though, like I still want to see him fix himself vertically. I do. That last play to Gabe Davis.
Oh yeah, no, listen, that was not a good play by him. I mean, his talent took over there, and the fact that he's a competitor, but just from a technique standpoint and a situational awareness, it wasn't good.
Even the play before that with when Bryce Huff strip sacked Allen, he left that receiver wide open on the sideline. Like that ball was going to be completed by Allen there for a first down on, I think it was 2nd and 2. So Sauce has been very good, but with that being said, and again, I love Sauce, and as Blake says, we were pretty much in front of the curve ahead of everybody with Sauce, and I don't know what month, but people were telling us we're crazy. No way, maybe at 10, Kyle, they'll get Sauce. But with that being said, the pass rush is helping him out a little bit, where I think he's very, very, very good. But to say he's the best in the league right now, I think you're getting a little bit ahead of yourself, even though I'm very impressed. And I know people are like, what the fuck? Be positive. But I'm being truthful that he has some things to work on in terms of getting beat vertically. Now, that last play, yes, Gabe Davis pushed off. There's no such thing as face guarding. He can guard the face. That's completely fine. Guys are taught to guard the face, just not necessarily touch them. With that being said, that I was expecting a flag when I saw that the last play. I was like, oh, I was looking for the flags, and you could tell he did too. Like he looked around, and then there was no flag. So thank God.
Yeah, whoever that ref is, good job, man.
Yeah, thank you. But he can still work on some things, and it's mostly vertically. I'll do a film breakdown on him at the end of the season and show exactly.
I mean, I know that there was a couple of pass interferences, especially once we played the Dolphins. By the way, we did get a $2 super chat from somebody. Yeah. So I know that Tyreek Hill drew like 1 or 2 pass interferences against us. At least one of them was on Sauce. But it does seem to me that the refs are being a little bit less ticky-tacky with the DPIs this year. So It seems they're letting them play. I mean, and that's the way it should be. If you're getting contact both ways and it's nothing like super egregious, because pass interference just in the NFL is such a back-breaking call, man. It could be like a 50-yard penalty. It's killer, Yeah. So,
I'm seeing some of the soft stuff, the Sauce stuff. I'm still behind the chat, but you're looking for perfection. That's unreasonable. I'm talking about Sauce being the best in the league. That people think he's the best in the league, to where he realistically is, which I think is top 10. But I think to get to the best in the league, he has to play it better vertically. Because I'm not looking for perfection. I'm talking about how he can be the best.
Yeah, and can we just talk a little bit more about the last play for a moment? Like, this is not asking for perfection. Listen, the Bills had no timeouts. They had, 20 seconds on the clock? If he catches something underneath, gets 10, 15 yards, you tackle him inbounds, the game might be over. Even if he gets to the sideline, that's not killer. You cannot get beat deep there. Like, you absolutely can't. He was playing way too shallow. That's not asking for perfection. Like, that's just asking you to play a little bit smarter there. And you could maybe attribute a little bit to coaching. Did they not stress that enough to him in that situation? But he also needs to know that it's not asking for perfection.
No, and again, watch the film review. If you go watch a film review, you see that Josh Allen wasn't pressured, and if he sees him passing Sauce and throws the ball on a laser like Josh Allen can, then he's beat vertically for 30, 40 yards because he played it too aggressively towards the sideline. Like he took an aggressive angle to cut it off, and he was wrong there. So again, it's not perfection. We're being realistic. Like just because they won and Sauce made a big play doesn't mean that Sauce is perfect. He's not. And I don't think he's the best right now. I think he could be the best, but he has to fix some stuff. So if you expect rainbows here and us to not criticize even the players who played well, then it's not the show for you because we're going to be very honest. It just is what it is. And when you do 3-hour film breakdowns, I'm not just going to say, this is great, this is great, this is great, because I don't look like a fucking idiot, So I'm just being honest with you guys. But still, Sauce being a top 10, top 5 corner in year 1 is ridiculous. it's still ridiculous. Like we expect him to be very good, and have a little bit more lumps than he has had so far. But I'm talking about getting from top 5, top 10 to the number 1 best corner in the league. And we all realistically, I get we're going to defend him and all this stuff, but realistically, that last play was very, very close to being off a defensive pass interference. And if Gabe Davis comes back for that ball, instead of trying to create that separation, hold Sauce off, it probably is a DPI. Why is it a DPI? Because he was playing catch up, because he didn't play it properly at the point where he got, or to the point where he got past them. Now, obviously, elite skills to make it up and do what he did after that fact, but it wasn't a great play from Sauce. It was a good recovery, but if the process was better, we wouldn't have to have our buttholes clenched at the end of that play, you know? So it just is what it is.
It's the thing is something like that, situational awareness technique, that's something that's very correctable. So if he's already this good, this is something that he could build on, right? Like it's like, for example, DJ Reed. I mean, there's a lot to love about him, and I see that people are really hyping him up here. One thing I've been thinking about with him the past couple of weeks is he's not as technically sound, and he's been in the league for several years now. So you wonder if he'll ever really get that much better at this. But the whole hopping back and dropping his arms thing, I mean, he's still doing it at this point. Once he loses some of his explosion, and he's a very explosive player, like, putting that T-step in the ground and driving on routes and his ability to change direction really quickly, when he starts to lose some of that athleticism and the fact that he's already short, you'll see a big dip in his play. I'm not trying to shit on DJ Reed right now. I'm just saying, like, someone like him in the next couple of years, you could see a big decline in his play, whereas someone like Sauce, you expect his play to get even much better. If we're just
again, and it's not that we're not praising him. I'm praising him. He's been amazing. I just number 5 to 1. We want him to be the best. He can be the best. I think he will be the best. But there's things to fix always. So are we happy to pay Carl Lawson for $15 million and JJ with JJ and Huff, no dead cap if we cut him? I think we renegotiate to a lower number. So Kyle, do you think next year we have Lawson, JJ, and Huff all on this team at their? Because listen, like again, Carl Lawson and JJ are both at about $15 million. Huff, we kind of talked about it last week. Whatever it's going to be, let's say $6-7 million a year, something like that. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe a little bit lower. But can you afford to pay all those guys?
He needs to be on this team. He needs to be on this team.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Listen, you got rid of Jacob Martin, and I think a big thinking of that is, okay, we want Huff on this team in the future. Listen, the Jets right now, they're, according to the stats, they are the least blitzing team in the entire league. This is how they wanted to play defense, and we're starting
the Bills twice or 3 times in the whole game,
something like that, right?
Crazy.
And listen, it was a good game plan because Allen is really good against the blitz. So this is how they want to play defense. Last year, they didn't really have the ponies to do it. Like I'm gonna give my brother a little bit of credit here. He liked Saleh, and he liked, I guess, what the Jets were doing. He was like, listen, I just don't think he's got the ponies right now. Like, you're being a little critical of him, but I think that when he gets some of his guys, they'll be a better team. Well, they started to add some pass rushers, and credit to someone like Bryce Huff. He's gotten even better. And you're starting to see some of that picture coming. Someone like Vinny Curry getting healthy. Like, people want to shit on him, but I like the player anyway. And he's actually maybe been a little bit better in run support than he has been as a pass rusher. He's had some really nice run stuffs over the past couple of weeks. Yeah. But anyway, Bryce Huff absolutely needs to be on this roster. And in terms of whether or not you can renegotiate with Carl, I would say it's in year 3 of a contract, it's probably a realistic option. If you maybe guarantee some of the money or something like that. But all 3 of them need to be on the roster.
Yeah. It's just it's a lot of capital to pour into the defensive line, but they are one of the biggest reasons. Obviously, we're having success. There's games, and I said it in the film review. There are games that I think the pass rush is covering up for the coverage a little bit, a la this game, which we can talk about a little bit later. But Quincy Williams was out of position quite a few times in this game, but you didn't see it because Josh Allen was forced to move in the pocket, or the play where he strip sacked by Rankins, who's unfortunately out now for 4 to 6 weeks. Quincy clearly blows that coverage. There's 3 versus 2. If he hits that ball to Singletary, if he had time, it's probably a walk-in touchdown. But because of Rankins, he wasn't able to get the ball there. So it's covering up some. But then there's also games where the pass rush isn't as good, and the defense is the Pats game was a game where I think the rush wasn't necessarily as good, but the coverage was a little bit better. So we had an account from commenting to Blewett, but it was about Snyder and Dan Snyder. I'm not getting into that stuff. Joe to Joe, how does Garrett Wilson's route running look? He's definitely getting separation, but I don't know if that's just his explosiveness. It's a combination. It's definitely a combination. He is absurdly explosive though. Like I didn't expect his explosion to look the same against players that Ohio State was playing, and then translate that into the league. But he is absurdly explosive. Like that seam route was ridiculous. How much separation he created so quickly. The release was good. What was it like? It was like a split get even or a split, and he kind of worked off the insteps of both widened feet. Head fake to the outside. The corner was looking high. The head fake to the outside got the corner to turn, and he just took the inside, dipped the shoulder. It was a really good job. But it's a lot of explosion, and I think his route running is solid. And I'm going to get you on here again, but I think his route running can get even better than it is right now. But you pair it's almost like, it's not exactly the same because Becton's more of a freak, but it's almost like Becton where I said, like you hear it in the intro, which I think we replaced that actually now, right? It's not even there anymore. But Becton, it was such a freak athlete that with average technique, he could be an amazing player. Garrett Wilson's of a similar ilk where he's so damn explosive. If he just has decent route running, which I think he does now, he's looking really, really good. Where if he gets the solid route running, you're talking solid to great route running. You're talking about one of the better receivers in the NFL because the lower explosion and the explosion he has in his lower body, not many can match it. So I've been very impressed by Garrett Wilson, and not necessarily a guy I was thinking about at 10 to be completely transparent, but he's been a home run of a pick so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I think a good amount of it is just the fact that the way they use the two of them. But Elijah Moore, even with that being said, you'd have to say that he's been a little bit of a disappointment. He's been getting open and stuff, and yeah, they haven't been using him that well. But even in situations where he's had some opportunities on like jump balls and things like that, and some of the effort, he's been a little bit disappointing. So where would the receiving core be right now without Garrett Wilson? I mean, that was Garrett Wilson game right there, man.
Yeah.
And overall, I mean, like I know he had the fumble on the end around, but this was a better game. I think, I know fantasy wise, it wasn't than the Cleveland game, but I think this was, I mean, like he was doing whatever he wanted with those Bills defensive backs. And I know there was no Trey White. I know he was going against some rookies and stuff, Kyer Ulam and stuff, but Christian Benford, but he was doing whatever he wanted out there. And, the thing about Garrett Wilson is like, you can do so many things with him, man. Like you could, like you did in Cleveland, you could throw him a fade route, right? We were talking, somebody asked a question during the summer months, right before the season started, out of all the people, who would you want to throw a fade route to? Would it be Conklin? Would it be Uzama? And we're like, oh, it's definitely going to be Garrett Wilson. It's not going to be Mims.
Yeah.
Right. So you could throw him a fade route. You could run him up the seam like that. Like he's fearless going up the seam, right? You can run him on like crossing routes. You can run him on end arounds, right? Like look at how effective he was last week doing that in New England. Even though the ball hit his hip here, he could have got even really huge yardage here.
That's what I think it was, right? That's what it looked like. Like he pulled it down, and just his stride.
But you like the pump fakes though, right? Like that was holding Tremaine Edmonds at bay. Yeah. So he's a very versatile all around, and we've talked about this a lot over weeks. He's really got so much competitive fire, and that's something that I guess I don't know. I guess like for me, scouting, I don't read enough about players' backgrounds and stuff, but that stuff's important. I didn't know that he was that fiery of a competitor. But I think that's one of the big reasons why he's so successful. And I've been contrasting that to E. Moore. I know Elijah Moore seems to love the game of football or whatever, and people speak very highly of him, but I don't see that competitive fire that Garrett Wilson has, not even close.
He's the type of dog that Jamal Adams always wanted on this team, but Jamal Adams is gone now, and now we have the dogs.
And can we just talk about, dude? His fucking helmet flew off, and he's diving for the ball. Oh no, the helmet flew off while he dove. But
he needed to dive for that ball. If he lost that ball, that's an all-time.
He wasn't all right. Even after the helmet popped off, he was not at all concerned about his head getting hit by somebody. And came really close.
Not in that situation, but what's up, our RXI Rixie? I'll say RX. Greetings from Austria. I was in Austria for like half a second. It was a border of Germany. It was like to cross. There's like a clear bridge or a walking bridge or whatever it was. I was in Austria for like 2 seconds. So I've been there. So what's up from Austria? Are you going to the game in Germany? I wonder. It's the Who is it? It's the Seahawks and somebody in Germany, right? This week, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this week. I can't remember who the matchup is.
I forget who they're playing. Twisted, what's up? Twisted is famous for saying he wants to catch us live, and then the notifications just don't work or whatever. So what's up? I'm glad you're here. Snowball, what's up? Jetty, or
maybe your suggestion worked. You told him to unsubscribe,
Jedi.
resubscribe, and make sure the bell is rung.
Appreciate Rusty being here.
By the way, we should recommend that people subscribe more. You know, they always say like you got to plug your stuff. We don't do that quite enough.
Yeah, subscribe, like that's always good. It helps the formula. But yes, him hanging the pocket was a huge thing this week. Account for commenting to Blewett. What do you guys see from the way we used more on Sunday? I guess we can get to that a little bit. You had Salah come out on, it was like a CBS interview or whatever it was, and he said that Elijah Moore is transitioning into the slot. But and I kind of I thought about it, I was like, but he played a lot in the slot this game, so it's not like something that's going to be different. Because the last 2 games he has been playing in the slot more, and Garrett Wilson's been playing more to the outside, so the transition's already kind of happened. But obviously against the Pats, he played 10 snaps. This game, I would say maybe 50%, 45, 40, 60, somewhere right around there. He didn't play all the snaps, but he played at least half of them ish. So I think they're transitioning him into the slot, which I think is probably better for Moore in terms of getting the ball and getting targets. But he was using the slot a decent amount in this game, and Garrett Wilson was used a decent amount on the outside. So it's kind of going to be chalk to what you've seen, at least in the last 2 weeks. But I think you're going to see obviously less of Jeff Smith in the game and more Elijah Moore taking that full-time slot role. And full-time slot role might mean 80% slot, 20% on the outside, but obviously he's not playing strictly on the outside. So
yeah, I would like to see them run him on more like stick routes, more drags, and more over routes. Personally,
yeah,
all from the inside.
All miss. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's too much. There's still too many vertical routes. There's still too many. Okay, put him in orbit motion. Still too much of that, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Twisted could I'll throw this to you first, Kyle. We kind of already hit on it at least a little bit, but could you guys please give us some insight on why it looks so good, or why Zach looks so good this week? He broke many bad habits in this past game. So Kyle, give some insight on why Zach looks so good this week.
I think it was mostly just play calling. He didn't have to think too much, and he executed what was given to him. I think it's just really as simple as that. I think that he is so confident in his ability to make off-platform throws, and I like the fact, because this is what makes some guys special, is your ability to. He talks about this a lot. I've heard him mention this probably at least 3 or 4 different times in press conferences, and I don't even listen to a ton of press conferences, but he's mentioned the fact that how, okay, there's a structure of the play, 3, 5, 7-step drop, go through my reads, and then when it's not there, sometimes I got to try to make something happen. I don't remember a lot of quarterbacks in the past, at least not with the Jets, saying that. And this is obviously something that's being taught to a lot of people, but he's someone who overly expresses that. And you could just see him trying to do that so much in recent weeks.
Yeah.
And he knows that he can do it, because he knows that he's got athletic ability to make people miss. He can spin and stuff, right? He could throw when his feet aren't set. He can launch the ball extremely far downfield. Obviously on broken plays, you're going to launch it downfield far oftentimes. So he knows he can do all that type of stuff. But it just wasn't working. He was trying to do it too much. He was trying to press when it wasn't there. He didn't have to do that stuff. And it worked really well for him. And so give a lot of credit to the coaching staff for hopefully trying to break that habit. And eventually it'll come. It'll come. Get the simple stuff down with playing quarterback, move the chains, take what's there, and then sometimes make that stuff happen, but just don't go look for it every play. Yeah. But dude, the arm angles and some of the heat on some of these throws, one thing that's very apparent every week when you watch his tape is he can throw some lasers. That one throw to Mims that Mims dropped. What you called it, a seed. I think that was the expression that you used. He had more seeds last week against the Patriots. He can put some fucking heat on that ball, man. And I think that
which sometimes can work too. It's a detriment as well.
Exactly. Too. So I think that more practice, more timing, more working things out with receivers, he's going to start to control that a little bit, because I don't know. He's kind of like this. Maybe I shouldn't use other sports analogies because I don't know a lot about other sports or whatever. But I guess like sometimes in baseball, you get a kid who can throw the ball 90, 100 miles an hour, something like that. But, he has trouble hitting the strike zone or whatever. So like, I guess with Zach, like, he's got to find this proper balance of like when to take a little bit of heat off of it and stuff. And I think it will come in time, but some of the arm angle throws were really impressive in this game. You highlighted some of them, and it's just, and so you see a lot of this, like when I watched this game, I saw a little bit of Aaron Rodgers, who obviously is his role model. Watch Aaron Rodgers over the past couple of years, especially once LaFleur got to Green Bay in 2019. You see so many of Aaron Rodgers this quick game where he doesn't even set his feet, doesn't even get his feet squared away. It's just little quick mount, like a swing route to the flat, or throwing it off RPO, not even setting your feet. And like, for example, that one first down to Berrios, like if Zach fully set his feet, you're going to give the defender more time to catch up and get to him.
Yeah, he was mid going to swing to throw that slant to Garrett Wilson, and like mid swing you could see he twisted his hips a little bit more just to throw that to Berrios, just realizing it was 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Like, that was a really nice play.
It was really nice, and you can't teach that stuff. I'm sorry, you just can't teach that stuff. I mean, a player could maybe try to work on that, but that's just like a talent that some guys have and some guys don't. You saw a good amount of that in that game. They're not like highlight type throws because they're maybe only getting 3, 4, 10 yards a pop or whatever. But, and there was a one play later in the game too. I'm trying to think. I think the defender he might've been like the slot corner apex defender. It might've been Teron Johnson, and Zach, he kind of threw with a little sidearm too. And you're like, even if he throws like traditional overhead, like normal type of delivery, you're like, you said this in your review, it's probably not going to be deflected, but just to make 100% sure it's not going to get deflected, let me throw it from this arm angle. I mean, you saw this so much this game. I mean, that's kind of special quarterbacking right there too, because pass deflections, they add up. Like, if you get a pass deflection on 2nd down, you're 2nd and 10. But if you get, if it turns into a 6-yard completion, now you got 2nd and 4.
Yeah.
This was a rocket, man. Denzel Mims needs to catch this.
Yeah, this is the ball I was talking about. Like, just in terms of the read and where he puts that ball in front of the defender, like you cannot walk that into a better spot. But Mims drops it, so he needs to catch that and a few other plays. But like, and
by the way, Mike White can hit that throw. Like, obviously Mike White, like this is most NFL quarterbacks can like hit this throw, especially if they throw it with anticipation. But how many quarterbacks can deliver it with that level of heat? And
that's part of it too. Not allowing the defender to necessarily to catch up to it, but really good job by Wilson just reading that underneath defender, seeing him widening and knowing the dig route's going to get open behind it. And obviously a freaking seed, you couldn't walk into a better spot, but there was a lot of positive, like that play, the play, even early on, the deep throw to Mims, the arm angle to Garrett Wilson, he's to his left side, and there's a blitzer, I believe, off the left edge, and he might not have to throw it sidearm, and I think this is the throw you're talking about, but he does throw it the sidearm to Garrett Wilson on the dig route over the middle.
Put it in. You got to add it to stream. There we go.
Oh no, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I could pull it up if you want me to.
Oh, I thought you were, just by the way you were describing it. My bad.
No, I can't. It's just the thing.
Yeah, you don't have to. I just thought you were trying to do that.
Yeah, so I think I have it here. But sometimes, obviously, when you have like 60 something plays, sometimes it's hard unless I have a second. Hold on. Now I gotta pull this one up. Let me see. Reed or Wilson to Garrett Wilson. I think this is it. Okay, is this the throw? No, this isn't the throw we're talking about. But nonetheless, very, very impressive game from Wilson. And you kind of asked like why. I think it's a lot of confidence in his reads, confidence in the pocket, confidence in the offense, and just his arm. Like he was trusting his eyes this game. Like how many throws in this game where it was he going from 1 to 2, where it was whether it be like double outs, like mirrored outs, or double slants where he came off 1 to 2. The only play that I thought he was bad with his eyes, which was a little bit sketchy because you had that safety that was dropping down. But was that throw to Uzama where he went from 1 to 2 to 1, and then he hesitated to throw the ball or threw the ball.
That one and the one to Conklin.
Those are the only 2 plays I can think of that were negatives for Zach Wilson, right? And the throw to Uzama at the end of the day, it wasn't a great throw. He got the ball to Uzama's hands. He caught it, and obviously it was ripped away. So it was a negative play, but it wasn't a terrible play. And then the play to Conklin, like, yeah, should he anticipate Conklin running a rocker route at the top of his route? Yes, because that's what he always does. And the defender was over the top and inside. So throw that ball with anticipation, and it's there. But other than that, what bad was there from him? Like, it was all simple, but he executed what was asked of him. So it was really, again, I think his eyes were better, his confidence was better, his pocket presence was better, and just the execution of a simple offense was better. Like, that's why we saw Zach Wilson be this way. So now, again, if you can extrapolate that over the rest of the season, and then you throw in those 3-4 explosive plays, we're talking about a much different game. Even this game, Kyle, like, let's say, which by the way, the offense and just in general, they have to get better in the red zone. They're getting to the red zone too much and kicking field goals. But nonetheless, like, let's just say he hits that throw to Mims. You're talking about another 40 yards, 50 yards there, and now we're looking at 200 yards, 73 completion percent and a touchdown. We're like, oh my God, it's so much better because of one throw, but the process was good. The result wasn't there, not necessarily because of Zach Wilson, but hit 2 or 3 of those plays a game. But this is what we need to see. Now, do I think they could do this offense consistently? Just short? No. Do I think they're going to have to throw some of the rollouts into the sail concepts and cabs and crease concepts and daggers, all that stuff that we talk about in the film reviews, or I talk about in the film reviews? Yes, but you only need to hit a few of those 20, 30-yard plays, 15, 20-yard plays to really make it a completely different offense. So I think the basis of this offense should be what we saw this game, 80, 85% of that heavy run game. And then again, a couple of deep shots, because you start hitting the short stuff, you start running the ball, teams are going to choke up. And then guess what? Zach Wilson can fucking throw a heater for 65 yards. So if we can build on this, it's definitely going to be very exciting. So.
Yeah, and the more games that he wins, the more reps that he gets, both on the field as well as mental reps, the more that, he continues to work with these guys and his teammates believe in him, he's going to get more confident come year 3. I mean, look at the jump. I know he got Tyreek Hill, and I know he got Jalen Waddle now in his second year, but Tua took such a huge leap this year. Obviously, Josh Allen took such a huge leap. It is important for keeping his confidence. Yeah, this was one of the throws I was talking about. Yeah, it's not Teron Johnson. Yeah, I mean, like, listen, if he throws this traditionally, like regular overhead delivery, I mean, it's probably not deflected, but hey, listen, if I know I can hit it with like a sidearm type of throw, as long as my feet are right.
And Zach Wilson doesn't have the flexibility of watching this frame by frame in slow motion. Like, he sees the flash of blue there, and he knows he can fit it there. So why not put an adjusted arm angle to make it come wider to avoid that defender? Like, he was very impressive.
You saw a lot of the reasons why he was drafted second overall. You saw the mobility in this game. You saw the arm talent in this game, right? Like, you saw the creativity, right? Like, there wasn't like a ton of like huge downfield throws or whatever, but this was a good game. I don't give a shit what PFF says. I saw that Michael got into a little tiff with Sam Monson on Twitter, where Sam Monson compared this box score to the one versus Atlanta, because like Michael was saying the grades were really similar. Like, dude, if you just want to compare a box score, like, you're almost like saying like, so PFF was like, they marketed themselves as like stat guys, but like there's context to their stats. But then he just goes out and quotes like a fucking box score that you could have gotten 20 years ago, 30 years ago in a newspaper, as if like that's data or whatever, and that's a justification for their grade. Come on.
And what I didn't mention too, which I forgot, and it happens when you're doing 3-hour film reviews. Something that I noticed about him too was like the pre-snap stuff from Wilson too. And I think like with some of these mirrored concepts, he probably has flexibility to go to either side initially with his reads based on what the look was. And the throw to Mims, like, based on the pre-snap look from the defense, there was nobody that could help on Mims. So you're
talking about late in the game, right? Third down conversion.
Late in the game, he looked at Barrios first. Barrios wasn't open, but based on how far the defense was to his left, there's nothing that could have helped Mims. And even plays like this, which I go over in more detail on the stream, or on the review. But like, you have 2 defenders over the top who could easily play out routes. You have a look from the Bills where they're 4 down. You have obviously an out route here from Mims. But then you look at Conklin pre-snap. If he's running an out route and you're looking, and he was much more willing to take 5 yards on first down, 5 yards on second down, and live to fight on third down. But like here, you're looking at pre-snap. Okay, these dual outs can obviously get covered up. This out can get covered up, but pre-snap, who's taking Conklin? It's either a tight end who has inside leverage on an out route, or it's a defender who is 10 yards deep on an out route. So then he goes to the side, obviously looks to his first read first into Mims, sees Conklin, delivers the ball, boom, but he delivers it with timing. Like there's timing. He comes out of his break, he hits him, and when you hit him, Kyle, obviously you know this, but when you don't take that extra hitch with good eyes, he gets it to him at a point where he can catch the ball and turn forward. Where Zach Wilson from last week takes that extra second of hesitation, whether that be hanging on this read or hanging on the 2. he delivers the ball as the safety's there. Now instead of second and convert and a conversion, and now you're at a first down, you're talking about a first down because of confidence in his reads and confidence in his eyes, both pre and post snap. So I was definitely very impressed with Zach Wilson this game.
Yeah. These are the types of games that give you hope. I mean, we were really down last week, but he gave us some confidence going forward. So, listen, even if he plays like this the rest of the year, the stats might not be overly impressive, but it's certainly way enough that like we're not even thinking about another quarterback for the following year. And you just hope that he'll get that much better. I mean, listen, if we're being honest, he's still a little bit of a slow processor at this point in time, but it's understandable. I mean, like somebody said in the chat last week, we were talking about Kirk Cousins because he always seems to get, he was another almost Jet, right? Under the Mike McCagnon era. We had so many almost Jets, but somebody said in the chat, because I was like, Kirk Cousins was pretty old during his rookie season, and somebody said, yeah, he was 24 during his rookie season. I mean, Zach's still 23, right? So like, I know that he has more, snaps and game time action that Kirk Cousins did during his rookie year, but Kirk wasn't even like good as a rookie. We really didn't see him play too much until his second year in the league. The fact of the matter is it just takes time. Some guys like, you've seen what Justin Herbert did year one, what Matt Ryan did year one, what Patrick Mahomes did essentially in his first year, even though it wasn't his first year. Sometimes that kind of clouds your judgment, but the norm of quarterbacks, historically speaking, is it takes them a couple years before they get it. I mean, Carson Palmer, granted, he didn't have good teams. He was pretty damn bad his first several years in Cincinnati. Drew Brees, right? Granted, some of those early San Diego teams were pretty damn bad, but it took him a while before. So, like, when you see the level of talent that Zach has, yeah, Geno Smith, right? I could say this, like, I know I was like saying like we need to at least have the conversation if he continues to play that bad, because you can't make some of those throws that he made against New England. Like if he goes out and does those, it makes 3 throws like that every single week. You can't play with a guy like that. But he didn't make those types of throws this week, and he does have that level of talent. And for me, I was not ready to move on yet, and I'm still nowhere close to that. And this gives me a lot more hope. So anyway,
the only other play that I could think of, I'm kind of like looking through my plays now. The only other bad play I could think of, so you might have like 3 negative plays, was the play where he got that sack forced fumble, where I don't know what his eyes were doing, going from you're assuming inside to outside, but it was inside to his left to outside to the other side. So I'm not sure what he was looking at there. Yeah. But Mims was open on the slant, so if he went through his reads properly, he would have seen Mims on the slant. It's probably obviously a completion there. So 3 bad from Wilson, but overall the pre-snap, the post-snap, the confidence, the accuracy, it was all very, very good in this game. So Mike says, isn't Jeff Smith a gunner? Think he's important to special teams? I do, but I think that they're going to find a way to get Mims in over Jeff Smith. Maybe they carry 6, but you're looking at, I would think with let's say Fant, Mitchell, and Corey Davis coming back, you're probably looking at Jeff Smith hitting the bench. McDermott was active for this game. And then I don't know who the third is. I can't really think off the top of my head. I know like Marcel Harris is important to special teams and stuff like that, but they'll find a third. So let's see. Mims' blocking is important. Yeah, I think it's going to pop up his blocking. Andrew, $2 super chat. We'll go to this really quick. Still babying Zach this many games in, bad sign. The thing is, and like we can talk about this too, Kyle's like, if you execute this game plan, 90% of the game plan, and hit that big 10% again, you're looking at an explosive, good offense. Like at the end of the day, and listen, in absolutely no way am I comparing Zach Wilson to Tom Brady, but how many exciting throws did Tom Brady have 90% of the games he played in? Like how many times was it pre-snap reading, post-snap reading, hit a guy on a flat route, and because you hit him so quickly, he has 4 or 5 yards to turn up on first down and then ride the running game. Like Tom Brady looked boring as hell, but he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Like he was, yes, they dumbed it down for Zach Wilson this game, but he still executed it to a T. And if you can execute a simple offense and you have a good defense and you have a good running game and then you have his physical ability that he has, you don't need to do much more. I think people are overcomplicating it and they want to see him have to carry a team like a Herbert, who, by the way, they're not doing very well right now, or the Bengals with Joe Burrow getting smacked consistently, or the Bills, who Josh Allen just got injured. Like there's different ways to succeed, and you could succeed this way. So babying him is fine. Let him develop.
Brady played many games like that throughout the entirety of his career, and I can guarantee you that he was quite happy to play games like that and win. No, obviously somebody can go and retort and say, yeah, well, when Brady was down by a decent amount in certain games, see the 2015 AFC championship game against the Broncos and the 2016 Super Bowl against the Falcons, where Brady had to throw his way and get back into the game. Okay. Yeah. It's Tom Brady. And obviously he was, 15 plus years into his career at that point. But the thing is, when you're going against a good defense, and when part of having like a quick rhythm passing game too is, you keep the chains moving and you stay in bounds and you control the clock. It's almost like an extension of the run game, and the run game at various points in this game was effective. I mean, they had 174 yards on the ground. It's keeping Josh Allen off the field too. So, how much of this game is them babying Zach versus let's be smart, control the clock, and take what's there and not make mistakes against a defense that will capitalize on your mistakes. So I don't know. I don't agree with the assessment that they were necessarily babying him this game.
No, I think.
Listen, if they were babying him all year, they wouldn't have had as many downfield throws as they've been trying to run all season.
They took what the defense gave them. Like you said before, the Bills are a notorious team who likes to make a quarterback nickel and dime them, because they don't let anything get behind them because of how just ridiculously disciplined they were this game. So they took what the defense gave them, and then at the end of the game, they tired them out and they ran the ball down their fucking throat. Like, it was impressive at the end, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Jack Mehoff says new camera Blewett. Good job, which is funny because I didn't get a new camera, but I just noticed it, Kyle. I guess the scratch somehow fixed. I don't know.
Oh, I was wondering because I did see Jack's comment, and I was like,
Jack Mehoff. It's okay. You can say his name. That's
okay.
His name,
Jack Mehoff.
I don't see an H. It's Jack Mehoff.
Okay, you want to say it. You want to be inappropriate. Anyway, I was like, oh, I guess Blewett did get a new computer, but apparently he didn't.
No. When I get a new computer,
I don't know how that fixed.
And neither do I. When I get a new computer though, it's gonna need to be something that I could draw on. Like it's going to be something that's expensive. So we'll see. Bears game worries me, Ryder. Seahawks are probably favorites in that one. I would say the Seahawks are favorite, but there's no reason that they can't beat the Seahawks if they could beat the Bills. The Bears game, it worries you because the Jets necessarily aren't the best for scrambling quarterbacks, but the Bears defense has nobody on it.
And they don't have Roquan Smith anymore.
They don't have Roquan. They don't have what's his face either. They just traded him to the Eagles. Robert Quinn.
Oh yeah.
So what do they have on defense? And then on offense, we're worried about Justin Fields and a decent running game. With the Jets have been good at stopping.
But
okay, like it's if you can't stop just Justin Fields, let's be real. The Jets shouldn't be. If we're talking about them being a playoff team, they need to beat the Bears. Like I'm not. You shouldn't be. You should worry about every game because any team can win any given week. But at the same time, if you want to win the division, you want to be in the playoffs, you beat the fucking Bears at home. Like let's just be real here. So. Thank you for recognizing my account. Sorry, I wonder who this is, to be completely honest. Sorry to have omitted you, Kyle. We'll fix next time. I think you should just keep it to Blewett. IIRC. I don't know if you know what that means. Pats plus us heavy while Bills didn't. Is that responsible for Zach Wilson's different in play? It's a part of it because Zach Wilson is not as good versus the blitz, but at the same point, I don't like. And LaFleur deserves some blame running all these deep concepts with a quarterback he knows is struggling versus the blitz versus a blitz heavy team. So versus the Pats, us running short concepts is going to take away the heat from the blitz. So they should have been doing this more regardless of who they're playing. Whether it be they blitz or they play off, a short passing game is going to be effective if you read it properly. Like you can't cover everybody, even in that. And it's not the Pats are absolutely stacked on defense. So go ahead, Kyle. I'll find some more.
I just saw that it's not. I don't have anything to add to what you said because I thought what you said was perfectly said. But somebody said, Chupacabra said, I regret sending a super chat because it was never read.
I'm going down. I'm at 552, so I'm still going down. Unless you want to read it now, but I'm not going to be able to pull up on the screen. I'm just trying to.
I'd have to find it. Myself.
Yeah. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
If I can find it, I'll pull it up.
I promise.
Sorry about that.
Soccer. That's Kyle. When you're in here, that's what you should do. I should be That's our new game plan. I'm gonna be back in the chat, and you're gonna be the guy to highlight super chats. That's
Okay.
that's our new formula.
You got a
that's
deal. I can do
that
that.
is your job. Yeah.
See, it's good. It's good that you gave me the login.
And now your font just went from like 12 in the graphic to like 14. Your role just increased. So we could talk about Chupacabra. What is your
opinion of Ogbuehi? Maybe a keeper. He's definitely better than McDermott. I mean, it goes back to the question, like, why was this guy even on the roster? Like, for what reason? Like, yeah, because you picked up Ogbuehi off the streets, and he, not being with the team, and he's like instantly better. Yeah, he had some interesting plays in this game. Like, so his pass sets, he's always throwing that outside arm. Like, he doesn't really change it up that much. He had some plays in the run game, right? Like, he had this one play in the run game where like he basically like threw a club, almost like he was like a defensive lineman. And like, I can't remember who the defender was, but he really knocked him inside really far and created some room to run to the outside. But this was his best game so far as a Jet. What do you think, Blewett?
Are you talking? Well, this is only a second or third game, correct?
Okay,
something like that. But no,
it's still his best is the point. So we're seeing him.
Listen, at the end of the day, like, you gave up one sack to Von Miller the entire game. I didn't notice a ton of pressure from his side. Now, is that also aided by the fact that Jets are getting rid of the ball very, very quickly? Yeah, if they're running more play action and deep concepts, would he get exposed a little bit more? Sure, but he did what was asked of him. Like, I have much more faith in Ogbuehi coming in, which is the way I'm saying it now. Ogbuehi. I don't know if that's right, but
I think it is.
That's what I've been writing.
You were saying Ogbuehi in your review, though.
Ogbuehi? Okay, Ogbuehi. I have more faith in him than McDermott, and like even like of the maybe more than Breno Giacomini's and Wayne Hunters of the past. Obviously, it's a very small sample size, but I'm gonna kind of twist this question a little bit because I think he's a good backup. Like, do you want him as maybe let's think about next year? Is he on the team? It depends on if they draft a tackle, I guess, because you have Brown, right? Well, let's start. You have Brown, you have Becton, you have Mitchell, right? Those are the three locks. And then
ideally,
maybe
you do not want him on the team.
Right? Yeah. Like, so if you don't bring in anybody else, could he be the fourth? Sure. Maybe he's the fifth. If you bring someone else,
and he's better than Chuma Dog as well.
The offensive line is going to be it's going to be crazy next year what they do because, like, is Brown back as a backup left tackle? Is he back as a starting tackle? Because you're assuming the interior is locked, right? I think they bring back Connor McGovern. Is it who's the right tackle? Who's the left tackle? Because I don't have faith necessarily in Becton to come back healthy. Obviously, he's been out for 2 years now. And I don't necessarily have faith in Mitchell being lumped in to be the full-time starter, obviously, unless he comes back the rest of the season and plays and he proves he could be relied on to be the full-time starter. And then Dwayne Brown, at the end of the day, is making like $11 million next year. He's locked into a lot of that contract. And he's going to be, 38, 39 years old. So, and he's average at the very, very best. So the offensive line is very interesting for the Jets, but I'm going to kind of twist this question a little bit. Kyle, what is your opinion on Ogbuehi versus Mitchell? Let's say Fant doesn't come back. Does Ogbuehi play at right tackle or does Mitchell play at right tackle?
This is a good question. You almost want, like, all right, if Ogbuehi is actually better, there's not much of a big difference in their level of play. Like, he's not much better. It's mostly just because he's a veteran. So you kind of almost want to give the experience to the young guy. But at the same time, if you're in a season where you're trying to win as much games as possible, you want to put the best players on the field. So that's kind of a tough decision. I'll say, even if Mitchell's healthy enough to play, I'm not going to play him unless like he's like 100%, recovered from the injury. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but I think right now, granted, I haven't seen a ton from Ogbuehi. I've been a little bit more impressed with him than I have Max Mitchell. Max Mitchell, and you said this pretty well last stream, and you also said this in your review, relative to what we were expecting from a fourth-round rookie from Louisiana, which is not a powerhouse of a college football program. He stepped in and played admirably, but he was pretty damn bad in that Steelers game. Pretty damn bad. And he struggled pretty decent in the Ravens game too.
Yeah, I think people are kind of almost like romanticizing what Mitchell was, which again, impressive relative to expectations. We expected very, 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 very bad from a fourth-round rookie from Louisiana, going against Calais Campbell's of the world and whoever else in the Steelers game and other games. And while we were impressed, I still think he was a bad starter. Ogbehi, this game was at least decent. So it's an interesting question. But with that being said, where are you Gents from? Jets? I've been Jets fan since I guess as a newer listener. I'm from Middle New Jersey. I'm from Central New Jersey. If you don't think they're Central New Jersey, then you're an asshole. And Kyle is from
I'm Central Jersey as well.
You're like Central Northish, right? You're like
I'm north of you, but I think we're both
Central.
Central Jersey.
I don't like when people say there's no Central Jersey because South Jersey, Central Jersey, and North Jersey are completely different things. North Jersey is basically New York, where people want to be in New York and Hoboken and all that bullshit in Newark. And then you have South Jersey, which is basically Pennsylvania and a bunch of hicks. And then Central Jersey is the real Jersey, where I don't know, we're just the best of both worlds. So I'm all about Central Jersey. So yeah, that's what it is. Let's see another super chat. I found in here from Chris Style. I didn't see that one, but thank you. Is there a comment after that?
Thank you, Chris Style.
Yeah, maybe he meant to leave a comment and he didn't. But
I don't see one. Oh wait, hold on. He does say this. I've been a Jets fan since Altuve.
Okay. Yeah, so I just responded to where we're from, but Central Jersey. Dan O, another super chat. What sites can I use to watch film? The
JetsXFactor.com.
Well, if he wants to watch it on his own, I think it's still $100 a year. It's NFL Game Pass is the one to watch it.
But listen, I think I could say this. This is what I do. All right. And I'll say Dan was generous enough to give a super chat. I'm not really giving any inside baseball that not a ton of people in the know already don't do. They've managed to make NFL Game Pass immensely worse than what it used to be. Now, this is not what Blewett does. Blewett has some other hookup that I don't even have. So I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking for
I wish
him.
I could give it to you. You just you know how that world is. If you start, I can't. You know how that is.
Yeah. Okay. So NFL Game Pass is like, it's so bad right now.
It's terrible.
Like to the point where like, I don't even know if they have the slowdown feature anymore. And it's such a clusterfuck trying to find like which play you want to watch. And like, it doesn't have all the plays consecutively back to back. It's just a mess for a variety of reasons. Anyway, if you wanted to sign up NFL Game Pass, you could do that. What I would recommend is if you have a VPN, right, sign up for NFL Game Pass International. Okay. Right. Use some foreign country, right? Like let's say England or Brazil or whatever, maybe even Australia. I know Brazil works. Okay.
Brazil works.
And then when I would say record the game, like use like, so if you have like Windows 10 or more, you can use like the standard like gaming feature, record the game. All right. And then you can watch the game from like your VLC media player or your Windows media player. And if you like, what I do is I adjust like the playback, the rewind and fast forward settings in VLC media player to like 1 second. So I could use the right and left arrows of my computer to rewind it and fast forward at 1 second. That way, like I can see like, oh, let me see this block. I want to reverse it just a little bit, and I could reverse it just a little bit. You can't do that. If you're trying to watch and do it like that from the NFL Game Pass thing, you won't be able to do that. You might be trying to like drag a little toggle screen. Like it'll be a nightmare. You don't want to do it like that. So and that's my suggestion.
Yeah, no, I have my thing. I like what I use, obviously, because I get it like immediately after the game. But the thing is, the old Game Pass used to be great. Like it had the list of plays, had the list of quarters. You can go high. You can go end zone.
Play, like if it was intercepted, it'd be like intercepted in capital letters.
Description of the play, and then also, and this is the thing that's better about the old Game Pass, even worse what I'm using. The old Game Pass, if you clicked on play 16 in the second quarter with 5 minutes left, you could switch to broadcast, and it will show you broadcast from that exact moment for the rest of the game, so you can see the replays. And this one I have, Kyle, it'll show broadcast, but it only shows the broadcast of the live play, not the replays. So I can't get the replays for all the close catches and things like that. So you used to see that in my reviews, but now you don't.
That really sucks.
But it is what it is.
Hopefully we answered that question well, Dan.
Yeah, let's see. It's dumb to it's dumb to brag out.
It's Sauce. We were criticizing Sauce a little bit.
Oh, who are you replacing Rankins with, Smart or Marshall? I would personally replace him with Smart. I think he's a better player than Marshall at this point in time. But with that also being said, they brought in Linval Joseph for a visit a few weeks ago when they didn't even have an injury. Now they had an injury, and it could be not like a precursor, but okay, you're planning for the worst if somebody does get injured. Do we bring in Linval Joseph now that Rankins is injured? Do you bring in a Linval Joseph? Because people are not talking about Rankin's impact enough. Like, he has been playing very well this year. And again, he covered up a most likely touchdown if Josh Allen sees Singletary because of Quincy Williams. He had that really, really nice run stuff where he literally spun a guy around and clogged up a gap. Like, Rankins has been playing excellent. So I don't think you're gonna see a dip in defensive line play without Rankins as compared to Smart or Marshall. Now, do the Jets, maybe obviously there's more than just Smart or Marshall. Do you bring up Smart, play him some reps, and then you flex JFM inside, and now JFM plays more inside while JJ gets some more reps because Rankin's out, or Huff gets some more reps that Rankin's out? Or would you what's the combination there? Or would you like to see them bring in Linval Joseph, which, by the way, I think I have 30 plays ready to go on him for a review. As soon as they sign him, if they do, the review's coming out that day. So
yeah, I definitely love to kick JFM inside more. I've been saying that so much, and they have been doing that more this year than last year. Last year was kind of by necessity, being a little thin at some certain positions. Yeah, Huff will have to get some more playing time too. But the thing about Rankins is he's not. There is no exact replacement for him. Whether it is Smart or Marshall, I know Marshall has some really nice upside, and Smart is certainly a gritty player. And I forget which Jet it was, but one of his defensive teammates said something about Tanzel Smart, like bringing him up. Oh yeah, that'd be a great idea, type of thing. But you're not replacing that type of play from Rankins.
Mm-hmm.
Rankins has definitely had a resurgence year, and that is such a huge play right there. He does get moved a little bit in the run game. Yeah,
this is Quincy's supposed to be here. He's not. So
yeah. So you're saying that this could maybe be a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to replace his level of pass rush from a 3 technique, and sometimes they'll even kick him even inside of that a little bit. Linval Joseph doesn't replace that, but I do think that bringing in a player like him will be good, and then you're just going to have to rotate in different ways and stuff, and then hopefully he'll be back and for a playoff push.
Yeah, we'll see. It says 4 to 6 weeks, so you'd think he'd be back for the playoff push, which I think so. The last game of the season against the Dolphins is, which, by the way, I hope I hope that Vikings game gets flexed just because Kirk Cousins sucks at prime time. But at the same time, Zach Wilson is a guy who I think feels some pressure when it's there at times when they're expected to win. And does he feel a little bit of pressure on prime time, Sunday Night Football, whatever it may be? I don't know. But that Dolphins game, I think I'm going to be in Costa Rica for that. And if there's a wild card game, I hopefully I'm back, because if they play a wild card game wherever it is, I'm going. Baltimore. Whoa.
So now you're definitely going to a wild card game. I was asking you about this a week or two, and it's funny how you plan your trips and stuff. I was saying Green Bay, and you're like, oh, I'm not doing Green Bay, and then all of a sudden you're going to Green Bay.
No, I knew I was going to Green Bay. I knew I was going to.
Not when the schedule was first announced. You didn't.
Yeah, I don't think you're right there, because I knew Green Bay was a thing that I always wanted to do. As soon as it came out, I'm pretty sure I was with Green Bay. I don't know. With that being said, next year I know they play in Dallas and Vegas, so I think I'm going to Vegas.
I'm thinking about going to Dallas. I got a couple buddies who are Cowboys fans.
I think I'm going to Vegas, and I don't want to travel all the way to a game to watch.
I heard that they have the most expensive tickets in the league.
Oh yeah, I'm fully expecting to drop a couple of grand when I'm in Vegas for multiple reasons. So they owe me a couple of dollars there. So
just don't end up with a tiger in your room.
No. That's a classic movie right there. Let's see. Still at tune, but I'm still trying to find some stuff in here. But yeah, I would be fine with signing Linval Joseph again. It's a move that I wouldn't necessarily make if the Jets were 3-6 for 6-3. But it's at the same point, we're legitimately looking to make a playoff run. So, Mike, don't you think the play calling should have been done? Should have done these kind of things right from the start? I feel like they asked me to do calculus before learning arithmetic, so to speak. That was one of the criticisms we had, right, Kyle? Was saying that why are they running so many deep concepts? And people talk about the defense that Zach's played in. Yeah, it's been unfortunate. Like, do you want to start necessarily in Pittsburgh against a raucous crowd there? No, not necessarily. Do you want to go to Mile High, play there? Do you want to play against the Packers, who at least a couple of weeks ago were the number one pass defense in the NFL? The Bills, who were a top 5 defense. No, and I think he should have simplified it for him. And I think that definitely was a criticism we've had over the past couple of weeks. But hopefully now they continue to run more of these type of plays, and then versus teams like the Bears, Jags, Lions, even though at the end of the day, like, we don't give a shit about stats, it's all about the process. But let's see Zach put up another 300-yard game, but instead of two touchdowns, 3 picks, we have 3 picks, or 3 touchdowns, no picks, So I think it's going to happen. But yeah, that was one of the criticisms we've had since the start with LaFleur and how he's been handling it.
Yep. So, hopefully this is more things to come. And listen, it's nice. Like I said, probably about an hour ago, they got a bye week to fully, kind of reassess some of the things. The bye week is because, the NFL is such a grind that, you're always reviewing the previous week's tape. But then you're immediately also preparing for the following opponent. But the bye week kind of really gives you a chance to look at the season as a whole and to put the whole picture together and look at things from every week and say, okay, we're starting to see a pattern here. This works. This doesn't work. Let's do some more of this. So I think that it's really nice that we had this positive sign of, doing this more quick rhythm throws, and it worked. And now let's build off of that. And what other wrinkles can we put in the game plan for the next week? So it's good. I think the bye is coming at a really good time too. So, but the criticism, a lot of it, they were asking a bit too much of him, which you could say that's not a good sign for him. But at the same time, as Robert Saleh would say, he is a pup, meaning he's young and he is still learning. He's got a long way to go, but he's got some of the stuff you can't teach. And I also keep going back to, I really do think he loves football a lot. I mean, he comes from a football family, right? Like somebody shared highlights from like his younger brother, Isaac. And like, apparently like he just got accepted to the University of Utah or whatever. And he seems to be a baller. I know his one brother played linebacker at BYU, his father, obviously, there's no question whether or not this kid loves football. I think he generally says all the right things to the media and stuff. And he can say, well, Sam Darnold said all that shit and Sam Darnold came from a sporty, athletic family. Yeah, that's true. But I think that he really loves football. He's really dedicated to the sport, and he does have some talent that you can't teach. So whatever. I'm repeating myself.
No, it's like some people are talking about like Zach Wilson, like not like oh, he's only throwing for 150 yards and like that's not enough and all that stuff. But he like and wins aren't a QB stat, but in this game, he executed what was asked of him. Like if they were in a shootout, then they would ask him to do more deep concepts. So like we win the game, he executes really well. He has 3 negative plays out of how many times he dropped back? I don't know, 25 times. Like he executed it very, very well. I'm sure if they needed to throw the ball more, they would. But it was, you have to credit the coaching too for a ball. And Kyle, what did we say before the game? Don't blitz Josh Allen. They didn't blitz Josh Allen. Run the ball, control the offense, keep Josh Allen off the field. What did they do? They didn't necessarily run the ball consistently. That was actually a part early in the run game. Early in the game was ass. Like every second and 2, third 2 they had, the run game would get absolutely nothing. So the run game wasn't good initially, but they kept Josh Allen off the field. We had a 7-8 minute drive. The last drive of the game was 6.5 minutes. Like he did what was asked of him. Bills Jets game was a defensive game, and the Jets defense played at a higher level. Sure. And I'm not saying that Zach Wilson is a better quarterback than Josh Allen, but Zach Wilson played a better game at quarterback than Josh Allen this game. Josh Allen was not good.
This was Josh Allen's worst game that I've watched since at least, his third year. Like his last 2 years and this year, like the past 3 football seasons, including this one, Josh Allen's been really good. Top 5 quarterback each of those seasons. This game was bad. Like, dude, both of his interceptions were really bad. And then he had the almost near bad interception to Whitehead. If Whitehead could catch, man, that dude cannot catch.
Dude, he is terrible. Like, so he had 2 chances in the Broncos game to close that game out, drop the ball. This game is a ball hit him pretty much in the face. Can't catch the ball. And this is something that I've talked about. And we'll get into the position by positions overall, but like, again, it's something where the whole defense is playing well, so the safeties must be playing well as well. Whitehead and Joyner have not been as good as people think. And there's something on Twitter, I think I said this last week, where like I criticized Whitehead for missing tackles. Like the safeties haven't been as good as people think. He's like, oh, funny how you just mentioned it now. I'm like, dude, there are hours and hours of film reviews and hours of live streams where I've been saying that for weeks now. The safeties are not good, and they need better safety play next year. I don't think these are the safeties.
It's funny how like someone like clearly someone who would say that to you does not follow your work that well, because I mean, dude, you put out hours and hours and hours of content on a weekly basis, and clearly if he was watching, and granted he doesn't have to watch that, but like, okay, if you're gonna come at somebody, like at least know what you're talking about.
Dude, there's 90% of Twitter, 90% of people in this world, Kyle, are headline readers and don't read any research. You can read a headline that says Kyle Smith is a Nazi, and then all the stuff under it says, no, he's not. I was just fucking around. They'll be like, oh, the headline said he's a Nazi though. Like no research into it, So now you're a Nazi.
Once people get those ideas in their head, it's really hard to get them out.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about like never mind. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not gonna get into that. I'm not going to get down that.
Joe, just because you said that now people think I'm a Nazi.
Well, everybody's a Nazi now. If that's like a new thing. That's a new thing. It's called people Nazis. Missed the streams lately. It feels good to win. Welcome back, Assassin. I know you moved recently or something like that, but glad to see you back.
Shout out to Dark Assassin, second place 2 years in a row in the Pick'ems, which we had to retire this year.
Yeah. I just we had a lot of stuff.
I'm the reigning champ now.
I know.
3 years in a row.
Yeah, I'm going.
I still got to get my second shirt.
We'll start that up next year again. Yeah, and we got to start doing the shirts again too. We just didn't, for lack of a better term, we didn't want to step on the Jets' dick in any way. So we're just gonna keep it safe, and then we'll put out the shirts eventually again. We'll have a store. Late didn't know you start at 5 p.m. lives. We didn't, but with me working midnights, I want to get at least 3 hours of the show in because we still have a lot to talk about. But let's keep going on. I'll take 150 passing yards and a win every fucking week. Yeah. And to me, this is a lot different than a Broncos 100 yards or a Packers 150 yards or whatever that game was. Like this game, he actually executed well for those 150 yards. So again, process versus results. The results of this game looks just like maybe the Packers game and the Broncos game, but the process couldn't be any more different, right?
Yeah, and a lot of those 150 something yards were earned. Like, if this was like 150 yards with a 79-yard toss to Breece Hall on a blown coverage, it would, the stat line, you'd feel a little bit differently about it. But he made some tough throws to gain, only a couple of yards. There's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, if Mims runs a better vertical route, you're talking about 40, 50 yards there. If he catches a dig route over the middle, then you're talking about 65 yards. Then we're talking about Zach Wilson 19 for 25 instead of 17 for 25, whatever it was, and 210 yards instead of 150, and people are losing their minds because of an extra 60 yards. But the process got him there. It just the result wasn't there, not because of anything that Zach Wilson can necessarily control, right? So like we've talked about how much we hate stats, and there's big reasons for that. Like you see that Mims play incompletion. You assume incompletion could be on a variety of different things. And incompletion can be Zach Wilson throwing the ball out of bounds, Minka Fitzpatrick almost picking it off really dumbly, or it could be him hitting a beautiful dig concept behind the defense, reading the zone coverage, firing it in there, and couldn't walk into a better spot, and Mims dropping it. So they both are incompletions, but the process of one was much better. Like stats suck, they do. And Nani is starting to go against stats. Like Nani is like he contextualizes the stats, but like there's a reason he's going back at PFF right now because they're brutal. Like you have that, like the heads of PFF saying, "Oh, well, Zach Wilson's game against the Falcons. These are the stats. Zach Wilson's game against the Bills. These are the stats." Like that's their argument. It's literally just stats. The box score.
Quoting a box score. By the way, do they still do? I mean, like I do follow some of them, because they're big and it's good to know at least how people are feeling about them and stuff. And they do put out some interesting stuff, but they were doing, it seemed like it was going to be an ongoing weekly segment thing, like explain the grade. Like they were going to explain Sauce's grade that backfired in their face. And then like the very following week, people gave them shit for like Quinnen Williams' grade. Did they still do the explain the grade segment? Because if they are still doing it, it doesn't seem like it's going that well, and it's going viral, and people are saying, "Oh yeah, this makes a lot of sense." Yeah,
like it's not even just Jets fans. Like Eric Turner was going at him too. He's like, you're talking about Sauce Gardner's like plays or whatever. He like showed a bunch of their plays in man coverage. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, they're explaining the grades get even worse. Like the Quinn Williams thing, they're like, oh, we're going to explain the grade of Quinn Williams. He's like a 64 against the Packers, and then like after a couple or like 66, 67, whatever it was, then he was like a 75, and then after nothing again, he went up to like an 80 something. So he went from a 60 something to an 80 something with no explanation. And all they did after was they come out like, yeah, we're sorry, we screwed up. Why did you screw up? Tell me what happened. Like what was the process that you got to the 64 and then just changed it? And obviously it wasn't really anything like that they wanted to speak publicly about because it's probably embarrassing how they fuck up that grade so bad. So PFF is a joke. And people are starting to realize it now. They've been a joke for years. They suck. And I don't know why NFL teams watch. I don't get why they use their stats. Now I get this guy lines up in this spot this many times. But how does how does Joe Douglas or any of their guys in their scouting departments or pro personnel scouting departments watch Quinn Williams' grade or watch that game, see 64, and they're going, what the and then they change it with no explanation? Like, how does anybody put any credibility into what they do? I don't get it. Is there a smart guy or two there? I've seen them break down film like, oh, okay, they're actually relatively impressive, but the entire system is flawed. It's a shit system. PFF is garbage. It just is what it is.
But what gets me is I'm not trying. This is just Kyle Smith talking. It's not Jets X Factor. Why do some people like for example, new on the Jets beat? I know he's been in the New York, used to cover the Giants, but this guy Zach Rosenblatt, he's constantly quoting PFF stats, and I think he quoted like they gave Michael Carter had a good game. He did. Apparently PFF gave him like a 90 grade, which I think that's very high for running backs. Like usually they don't give grades that high for running backs. And it's like, oh man, if he keeps playing this way, like, blah, 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 he's going to have a great year. It's like, I don't know, man. Like as a beat reporter, like why are you relying so heavily on PFF too? I don't know. I don't know. It seems a little lazy to me.
The Jets tweeted them, and like because the PFF has like the Jets top 3 corners like in their top 15, and like for any type of actual like analysis they have to put into a grade, I don't trust them. Again, for raw things, I understand, but anything with grades where they actually have to judge a play, I can't trust them. I can't. They've showed it plenty of times in the past where they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Where like you'll have Jeremy Ruckert. Or you had like the one preseason game, you had Lawrence Cager who ran 2 wide open slider routes, and he got like a 90. He got like a 90 grade for running a wide open route and catching the ball and running in the wide open field. And then like guys who were balling out got like 15 points lower than him, but because I guess he had 2 catches for so many yak yards, they don't put any any context into the situation. So good stats in play means good grade, or like do you know the scheme? Do you know the blocking assignment? Do you know what the reads were? Do you know route running? Do you know coverage? Do you know anything? Like, and clearly they don't know much. It is what it is.
By the way, I know that their big thing is, okay, every play, every game. And I know that we have somebody in the chat right now that's actually done some work for PFF. I'm not going to say any names because I don't know if that person wants it out there. But anyway, so they say every play, every game. But sometimes players will take like a play off or whatever, because let's say you're a receiver. Let's say you're on the backside of a concept, or let's say that, you're a receiver on the backside of a concept. It's like an RPO that might go the other way, or you're just a decoy, like blocking, and let's say you're running a route on like an RPO to the backside, whatever. Like sometimes like some of the, like, and you even saw this, like there was like a couple plays where Diggs like half-assed ran a route because he knew it wasn't going to him. Stephon Diggs, one of the best receivers, top 5 receiver in the NFL. Garrett Wilson, you saw it with him a couple times in this game. He was on the backside of a play. He kind of took the play off a little bit, probably preserving his energy. But PFF is still grading that play. And to my knowledge, they still grade that play at equal level as all the other plays that they grade. So it's like, I get that you don't want to go based on highlights and like one good play, like, oh, this player had this one good play, but what did he do the whole rest of the game? It's like, yeah, but when you're also grading plays like that, and your system, I don't think weeds out plays like that, how does that also affect somebody's grade too? I don't know. I think there's a lot of flaws in their system.
We've talked about it before. You talked about it before. Like I want to see how the play I always bring this up because it's the most prevalent play I can think of, where Sam Darnold against the Vikings drops back, hits Sharon Peak in the chest on a slam round. Sharon Peak drops it, and it's an interception for the Vikings. It's a good play by Darnold. Is it graded? Well, probably not, because it was a pick. Like it's an easy example of how he executed, but the result wasn't there. Kev Trotta asks, barbecue or soy sauce? Are these your two favorite sauces, Kev? Kyle, barbecue or soy? Yeah, I would say barbecue too. I don't really like
soy
Asian
sauce.
food a lot.
What
You
you're
put
not
on
going to
white
use soy
rice?
sauce on as much.
You
Yeah,
put-
on white rice it's good.
chicken and broccoli from a Chinese place, but I usually go Thai food over Asian. And when I get Asian, it's usually like sushi. I don't really get the fried rice and all that stuff. But nonetheless, I'm a hot sauce guy. All about the hot sauce. That's what it is. Which actually, I gotta fix my sauce chain, because my sauce chain,
Keeps breaking.
my hot sauce bottle broke off the chain. So I gotta fix that, or get another hot sauce bottle.
Not the
Let's
first
see.
time that's happened.
No, I know. I gotta fix it. I didn't wear the sauce jersey the last game though. I wore Quinn Williams jersey, so I broke my streak of matching the Jets jerseys. I think I am now firmly embedded with, you wear the jersey that the other team does not have, the color the other team does not have. So if Bills white and blue, you don't wear a white jersey. If they had black, you don't wear a black jersey. You wear the green jersey. The Packers had both green and white, so you wear black. You wear whatever color they don't have, so you can show that you're a fan of your team. So that's what I do.
It's good thinking.
Let's see. Joe and the not see. I'm not sure what that means. A lot of tight ends don't come into the NFL immediately have an impact. Rucker was a blocker more so than a receiver in college. That, and the fact that he is behind two good tight ends, and it's not like they're running a ton of 13 personnel and all that stuff. So yeah, he's tight ends take a little bit to develop, and he's not in a position where he needs to be thrusted to a starting role or even any type of role. Again, Rucker of the past.
I mean, maybe Yeboah knows the playbook a lot better than him, but you cannot tell me from a sheer talent perspective that he is better than Rucker at this point in time.
Chicken Jenkins, did you guys do the shot on camera? I did not do a shot on camera because one shot to me is pretty useless, and I have work in a couple of hours. So if I didn't work midnights, I would do a shot just because you asked. But yeah, got to celebrate the bye week, going nuts on the podcast. Love y'all, JETS. Joe's hot sauce chain. Yeah, I actually have another one, Kyle. So I have to attach this to this now. So can you see the sauce chain? I think people have seen it before. Yeah, so I have to attach it now. But
since you like rocking, player chains so much, I'm gonna get you a big ticket chain.
Dude, when you saw him coming out on Twitter the other day, and he was like, "I can't wait to walk out of the tunnel and hear my name called." Did we talk about that last week or no?
We did not. We did not talk about it last week.
Yeah, no, and I felt a little bad because I don't think he's a bad dude, but I think if he expects opening week to be the starting right tackle or the starting left tackle, he might have a rude awakening. Like, he can't just assume that. He has to really fight for his job. But yeah, let's see. I hope they did not.
He does, but if he's healthy, if he's healthy, I think he's going to be a starting tackle. But I don't know. I guess that's a big if with his history.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Kyle, you go, okay, so let's just say that, let's say it is Dwayne Brown at left tackle. You go to Max Mitchell and Becton. Becton wins out. What is the chance that Becton finishes the season? So you must have a lot of faith in Max Mitchell to be a tackle for a good amount of games if Becton is the walk-in starter. You know what I'm saying? Instead of maybe bringing in a Jack Conklin or something like that. So
it's a great point.
I think the only way that Becton is a starter is if they have a lot of faith in Max Mitchell, which I don't think's ever been said before. But to me, now that I kind of talked through it, it makes sense.
Yeah. And based on what we've seen so far, I don't think that you can have that level of faith in Max Mitchell. Of course, he's going to get better. It makes sense that he would get better, but we've been talking about Zach having a long way to go. He's still got a pretty good ways to go. Max Mitchell.
New York Jets, Florida. Can we finally just smash it? Dude, I would like nothing. Like, how exciting! I don't know if you're coming to the Bears game, Kyle. I hope you don't. I'm sorry. We can tweet after, but if they go to, I texted Bears game 7-3.
Joe, say what I texted you on Sunday night.
No, let's see. I don't know. Sunday night, I was feeling it. I was feeling a little bit.
I texted Joe this.
You said
I've had tickets to 3 games this year.
You said so. The Jets are
Bengals,
0-3 in
Ravens,
the games.
and Patriots.
Yeah.
They're 0-3 those games, and 6-0 in games I haven't had tickets to.
And then I tweeted back, "Thank God you didn't come. It was a great time." So, are you going to go to another game this year, Kyle? Or are you cutting yourself off for the Jets' sake?
Yeah, so I actually didn't go to the Bengals game, even though I had tickets to it,
Yeah.
because I knew Zach wasn't playing and I wanted to see him play. So I returned my tickets for that. So I still have some credits. So I'm at least going to another game. I've kind of circled the Jacksonville game because I want to go to a primetime night game. And it's going to be late in the season, and the Jets, hey, playoff push. That's the one I'm planning on going to.
Night games are always the rowdiest. They're always the rowdiest. That one's gonna be fun.
And dude, if they make the playoffs, I would say that there's a decent chance I'm going to go to a playoff game too.
Yeah. Wild card. I hope I'm back from Costa Rica, but I'll be there. You're assuming it would be. Oh, the only thing like Ravens right now, I think would be the matchup, and like Bengals. What if it's in San Diego? Or no, it would be in San Diego because it would be 4 versus 5, right? So we're talking about.
I mean, there's still a chance the Chargers could win that division.
Yeah. Chargers. That would be, dude. Chargers would be rough. Who's the other teams up there?
I don't think I'm gonna make it out there if that ends up being the game. But
even
Ravens,
Cincinnati's far. Ravens, Bills, maybe. I don't know.
Bills, I don't see how I couldn't go to the Bills game. My brother would want to go, right? So
I'm not going.
And I've been to that stadium before. That's a fun place to go.
The Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were there in 2016?
And, I got some Bills podcasting buddies who I've spoken to for so many hours, but I've never met in person. So I'd kind of have to do, if it's a playoff game, I'd have to go to there.
Yeah. Rico the Pup, guys, what was the rationale behind Salah openly stating more was moving to the slot? Was it for the fans, for the players, adding a wrinkle to the Pats game plan, just tired of having to give the answer? I think he said that because that's what's already happened. Like, people don't realize it because they don't necessarily watch, but he's already moved him to the slot. It's been happening for 2 weeks. He played most of his snaps in the slot last week. I know he did a lot of like those like orbit return motions and stuff, just like to move the defense around a little bit. But he's been playing the slot more, so it's not just throwing a bone to fans. It's something they're legitimately doing. So Anthony G, the sacred coin says, yeah, you've seen this, Kyle, right? We've talked about this. The sacred coin says we lose the next 2, but go 11-6 and make it to the AFC Championship. Would you take that or rather beat the Pats and see whatever happens? Well, listen, at the end of the day, do I trust the coin? No. So just let's beat the Pats. Like, now if you could tell me if there's a time machine and I could go forward to the AFC Championship game and the Jets are playing in it and we lose, I'll sign the dotted line for that. But I'm not going to respond well if we lose to the Pats and the Bears. So let's just beat the fucking Pats. Because at that point, you're talking about 7-3 and what should be 8-3 against the Bears. And you don't really need to win much more after at the end of the playoffs. So
this is such a tough question because, dude, even both those seasons they made it to the AFC title games, like those seasons were successes. Like anytime you can make it there, like it's pretty much a success, especially when you have a young quarterback. I mean, Sanchez was in years 1 and 2 respectively. So you had to consider the season overall a success, much less so the second year because you knew that you weren't going to be able to be as good, just, contracts and everything. But any year you make it to the AFC Championship game you still have to say overall a success.
You still take the risk, though. You still take the risk.
But dude, I want to win a Super Bowl, man. Like that's what it's all about, man. It's all about winning the big one.
Yeah, listen, and at the end of the day, like obviously we're built completely different than the Bengals, but like you look at the Bengals roster of last year. Now, obviously, this is assuming the Jets would be healthy, but like they weren't an absolutely stacked roster. The Niners made it to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Are they an absolutely stacked roster? No. Look at even the Rams. Look at them last year versus this year. This year they might not even make the wild card. So like you want to get there and have a chance at the Super Bowl. That's the end of the day. So you give me the Pats game and you take the chance. You have the Jets teams who were 9-7, 10-6, wherever they were, who almost made the Super Bowl. You have the Giants teams who are like 9-7, 10-6, made the Super Bowl, beat the Pats. Like we want to get there and have a chance. So if you're saying, oh, we'll make the playoffs, you lose the AFC Championship game. Yeah, obviously at the end of the day, it's a great season. But you don't give your chances to win a Super Bowl. So fuck the coin, like Mike said a little bit earlier in the chat.
If you could, we're talking fantasy land now, but whatever. It's fun. It's bye week. We can have a little bit of fun, and we just beat the Bills. So let's have some fun. Joe, if you could beat any team, NFC team that you could play in the Super Bowl and beat, who do you want it to be?
It's kind of hard because immediately my mind went to Tom Brady, like just to give it to Tom Brady one more time before retirement, but I don't think they're going to make it. So then past that, I think it's the Eagles, right? Like
That would
Eagles
be
are
fun, right?
Eagles.
The first time the Jets ever beat the Eagles in a meaningful game.
That's what I'm
'Cause they
saying.
only beat them preseason, like in the
They've
Super Bowl. Oh man, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, they never beat the Eagles, and they're so close. We could talk a lot of shit, but at the same time, like I think the answer is the Eagles, and this is almost like the second answer to this would be the Giants, but I don't want the Giants to even get there.
Exactly. That
You
was
know,
my
like
thinking.
fuck the Giants. Like I'd rather have them not like win a bunch of games or lose a bunch of games, lose the wild card, and not be so happy. But at the end of the day, if you could tell me we make Giants fans walk away with the Super Bowl L and the Jets win, celebrate in front of the Giants, like that's the best. But I think realistically, because the Eagles are expecting to get there, and they probably will get there. You want to beat the Eagles because they're literally an hour and a half south of us. So we're pretty entrenched with the Eagles fans. So it'd be nice to beat their ass.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, there's so many Eagles fans when I was in college, man.
Oh yeah, well we're really close. Like I'm only like an hour and a half from like Eagles country. Like it's a little bit south of me. It's really split. Rather beat the Ravens Super Bowl. Good storyline for Jay. Sure. Unless the Ravens in this same season move to the NFC,
we would never play. Yeah.
We can't play them in the Super Bowl. Kev Chata.
AFC title game though.
Yeah, hey, that'd be fun.
That's a possibility.
So Kyle, let's get into more of this game. We hit on Zach Wilson a lot. Is there anything else you want to add to Zach Wilson from this game?
I think we talked about him so much. I don't think we need to talk about him anymore.
Yeah, we did. And in that film review, go watch it. It's 3 hours, but you can always fast forward to the parts you want. I think Zach Wilson, I probably talk about him for a good 45 minutes to an hour on that show easily.
Yeah.
So there's plenty there. But past that, let's go to the offensive line. Again, it's a group that I think played relatively well, but I think getting the ball out very, very quickly obviously hides some flaws you'll have on the offensive line versus them taking 5 to 7 set drops of play action and rolling out, etc. But the offensive line, Dwayne Brown didn't have many bad plays I can think of. He had one bad play versus Von Miller, but for the most part was solid. Nate Herbig, dude, like he was a guy who I feel you weren't very high on, even after watching his film review. I was probably a little bit higher on him than you.
But you still weren't high on him, though. As a backup, sure.
No.
Yeah.
No, I think I said a bad starter or a below average starter to a very, very good backup. And he's been a very, very good backup. And if not, like probably an average starter. He's outplayed what we think have thought of it a little bit. But like that run the goal line with Michael Carter, very, very good. And McGovern,
if you're being honest too, on like pulling kick out blocks, he's moving guys more than Tomlinson is.
Yeah. Tomlinson was fine this game too. And McGovern is a guy who, again, for whatever reason, plays on Twitter, a bad first taste in their mouth. I think it's a guy who fans automatically look to move on from. McGovern is an above average center. I think he's a guy who's going to be back next year. And I think he had a pretty solid game as well. Now, the run game was kind of ass in the beginning of the game. Like there were so many short yard situations where they ran the ball and it just did not convert. I was like, what the fuck is going on? But overall, I think the run game was obviously great, Kyle, and that's a part of the offensive line. And at the end of the game, we're talking about I have the plays up. You have and I remember we got the ball with it was like 8.5 minutes left where the Bills pinned us at the 5-yard line. I'm like, yeah, fuck, I really got to move the ball 95 yards to score a touchdown. Like this is kind of crazy. But you had Robinson 9 yards, Robinson 7 yards, Robinson 16 yards. By the way, all back to back counter OFs, just straight counter, just right down their fucking throat, which was awesome. Big part of the offensive line. Big part.
When's the last time the Jets have had like a drive like that where they ran it and got so many like good chunks, chunk, like without like a big play, right? Like that was impressive, and like that's like something that's backbreaking for a defense. It's just like, man, we can't fucking stop them, man.
And it was a good part of the offensive line, good part of just scheme, good part by even the tight ends like Uzama blocking on a lot of those plays being the lead blocker. But you had 9, 7, 16. Then Michael Carter gets subbed in, runs for 17, runs for 4 yards on 1st and 5 because of a encroachment by the defense, I believe. And then he ran for 15 yards, and boom, we're like in the green zone. I was like, holy shit, dude! Like they really just ran it down their throat. And we'll talk about the running backs in a little bit. But what did you think about that Robinson play where I think it was the first counter play where he slips under the guys?
They got a little bit lucky. They got a little bit lucky, but and you could say that Jordan Phillips over pursued a little bit, but give Robinson some credit there to be able to duck his head under him. I mean, and part of it is, he's a short little guy. Does Breece Hall make that play? He might not. He's a little bit bigger. And he might hit the hole a little bit quicker.
But that one play where Robinson falls in the open field, Breece Hall is still running.
Yeah, Breece might go
he's
20,
gone.
30 yards easily on that play, maybe.
Yeah, he's gone. But impressive from the offensive line. And overall, what do you think about the offensive line in this game? Again, I think it was overall a solid game versus a Bills defensive front, which, let's face it, like, they have talent. They obviously they have Miller and Epinesa and Gregory Rousseau and it was Jones in the middle, that big ass guy, Ed Oliver. Like, they have a good defensive line, and the Jets did a pretty damn good job versus them. And obviously, it's all like before that last drive, it was like a decent game. But when you're able to pound the ball down their throat like they were at that last drive, like that's just mano a mano, and they just balled out. So you have to give them a lot of credit.
Yeah, you have to love that, and also give. One thing that you highlighted too in your review too was give some of the coaching credit on that last drive too, because they had some really good blocking angles set up.
Yeah.
They called some good runs against the proper fronts, and it was executed well. Even give some credit to the tight ends for some of their blocking on that last drive, because it was 12 personnel the whole way, right? Pretty much, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they went 11 for like one play or something like that.
Yeah, I didn't chart it, but I think it was like a lot of 12.
Yeah. So Uzama had some decent blocks pulling there, and Conklin, even though he was in line, he was like getting to the second level, he had some nice blocks too. Yeah, I mean, credit across the board in terms of like pass protection, being that a lot of stuff was really quick. They didn't have to hold up for super long, but I think that even when they did, they did just fine. They
maintained the interior pretty well for Zach Wilson to step up, so that's definitely a good sign in the short passing game and stuff and his scrambles. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Jordan Phillips, he was not really good when he was with Miami. And then when he went to Arizona, he wasn't that good. But with the Bills, what they've asked him to do, he had a really monstrous season a couple of years ago when he was with the Bills, then went to Arizona, didn't live up to the contract. So he came back to the Bills. He's been good. Tim Settle, like my brother was hyping up Tim Settle in the offseason. Tim Settle. I'm telling you, Tim Settle.
Herbig had a really good.
I was about to say, he got moved, man. And then what was it? McGovern laid him out too on one of those pass pro plays. That was the play that Zach Wilson scrambled on.
Yeah.
So you were saying that maybe Zach, he cleared. The expression that you used was open the Red Sea. The part of the Red Sea right here.
Part of the Red Sea.
Yeah. So, give credit to McGovern there.
This play?
McGovern, I believe this is it.
Yeah.
McGovern definitely had a hold on that last drive that wasn't called. I think it was on the big Robinson run where he slipped. I think that was the play McGovern had a hold. But by and large, they were pretty good.
Oh yeah, what do you think about the McGovern play where they had that interception, that near interception, and McGovern moves the pile? What do you think about that? Because I really,
Well, I did not see that on my own. So you basically opened my eyes up to something I wasn't really aware of. It's tough to say that that's what actually happened because you can't really see it. But I do think it's a heads up play from McGovern, because if you're just looking at it just from a sheer numbers perspective, there was a hell of a lot more Bills players around there. So any one of them could come up with that ball. So let me knock them off the pile, at least give Uzama more of a fighting chance. So I thought it was a heads up play by him.
Yeah, I just think based on how I anticipated, it looked like they were fighting for the ball, and Edmonds had the ball near pinned on the ground, and then McGovern hitting that pile just rolled him on top of Uzama, which probably gave him better position to rip that ball away. So it was definitely a heads up play. He had that play where he just knocked Tim Settle on his ass. Again, Herbig had the nice down block on Settle, moving him a good amount for, I think that was Carter or whoever it was. He had the play by Herbig climbing up to the second level, blocking the linebacker, which Ugbuie also had a really nice reach block on that play where you had Herbig did the ricochet technique, climbed up, good job, and he kind of knocked Settle off his spot, or whoever that was off his spot, and then Ugbuie reached him. Almost got the hold, but he was falling, so that's kind of it is what it is. But yeah, good game from the offensive line.
And that touchdown run too. Give credit to the play calling sequence there. I mean, they got really light box right there, and they took advantage of it, man. And the blocks across the board were executed. I mean, it was a walk-in touchdown.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Mike, this is a good point, by the way. I didn't even think about this, but it's another really good point. Why the Eagles? make Giants fans root for Jets like against Philly, like we had to root for Giants against the Pats. How true is that too? So it's twofold. You play the Eagles and you make them root for us. So I 100% agree. You want to play the Eagles. I'm down for the Eagles.
Wow. That'd be great.
Now moving to the running backs who were running behind the offensive line. Until the last drive, they weren't overly – and well, Michael Carter had a few nice plays. Michael Carter, both those plays to the sideline, like those crack tosses was very, very good. That one play I highlighted on Twitter, Joe RB31, and on the film review where he like lightens that near leg and he does like that fake stiff arm or he pulls that stiff arm away. That's 100% what led to him at least having that room and the defender having less balance to come in with good or good form on that tackle. So hell of a job by Carter on that play. Past that, he had another nice run the crack toss. Obviously, the last drive, he was following his blocks and doing a good job. So good job by Carter. And Robinson has been pretty good, obviously, for moving into the role he's moved into as quickly as he has. Obviously, followed the blocks in the last drive as well. So credit to both running backs. I wouldn't say anything spectacular. So I was kind of confused why Carter got such a good grade, to be honest. I thought he did well, but I minus that one play where he has that crack toss and he throws that fake stiff arm, or he goes a stiff arm and then pulls it back down. I didn't really see anything that was like he created and did amazingly by himself. And again, I'm not trying to shit on him, but a 90 grade, which people can rarely get, and he had Breece Hall running for like 100 yards versus
like a 60 grade or whatever.
Yeah, it was like was it the Dolphins game where he ran for like he had like 100 or 98 yards receiving,
such a beast in that game, man.
And 100 yards rushing, and he was carrying Dolphins 20 yards down the field. They gave him like a 70, but then Michael Carter gets a 90 here. Like again,
how do they justify that shit? Yeah, go ahead and explain that grade, PFF. Let's see how much we laugh hearing that explanation. What a joke. Yeah. I don't get it, man. I don't get it at all. I mean, it's hard to think of like really any negative plays that Carter had. I mean, like I can't really think of any plays off the top of my head where like, he missed the hole or whatever. And there were other plays where he made people miss or whatever. There was like one play where, they ran like some kind of like mid zone or whatever. And he just, kind of lowered his shoulder and made somebody miss. A lot of his good runs this year have been like, kind of to the outside. But even in this game, like he had one or two good runs or he kind of ran it up the gut. But yeah, I mean, like, so this is obviously a heads up play by him, kind of like, I guess faking throwing the stiff arm, but then not actually throwing it. And then part of it too is just like he's so short, man. And as a running back, it's not a bad thing. Low center of gravity, low man wins.
Yeah, when people say like when we like if you read draft reports or anything like that, as soon as somebody says like, oh, running back short and that's a problem, immediately discredit what they're saying, because being a short running back is actually it's a good thing. Like I'd rather be a short running back. If you just told me, if I told you, Kyle, hey, you have a 6-foot running back and a 5'8" running back, just based on that, I'm taking the 5'8" running back. Like I rather have that because of things, like Maurice Jones-Drew. I'm not comparing him to Maurice Jones-Drew, but that center of gravity and being low, being hard to tackle is such a big thing. And then here you talk about like the defender trying to defeat that stiff arm. That's how you're taught to tackle guys if they're throwing that stiff arm, and he thinks the stiff arm is coming. Michael Carter kind of olays him. The stiff arm doesn't come, and that leads him to obviously his momentum going into the ground and not being balanced to tackle. Michael Carter. It's like you going to push somebody, and then that guy disappearing and not being there. You're going to be off balance. That's kind of what happens there. So Michael Carter, a good game, and I think it was a more
he does not go down by arm tackles. You're going to have to wrap him up.
Yeah,
like he's definitely not the fastest dude in the world. I mean, like it's so evident. Like we said it from the moment that we drafted Breece. Like Breece is the home run hitter. Michael Carter isn't. But oh man, what the hell was the point that I was going to make? So he's not like a home run hitter, but like, he is tough to bring down. I forget what point I was going to make. I hate when that happens. Anyway, go on.
Oh, no, it's okay. Past that, Ty Johnson actually had that one nice run. I think that was
but light box, right?
He the only thing I'll give him credit for is he runs hard as hell. Like I'll give him credit. He's fast. He has good physical traits. Do I want him on the 2023 Jets? I don't, but it is what it is.
Like he's willing to lower his shoulder, Ty Johnson, but he's not creative. Like
no.
Like when he gets into space, so let's say you get him
James
on the outside.
Robinson's not overly creative either.
Yeah, like Ty Johnson is very willing to just like run it out of bounds and gain 7 yards. Whereas, one of these guys like Michael Carter, he gets to the sideline, he's going to cut it back up. Ty Johnson would take some of these runs out of bounds or just like fall forward with his shoulder. Whereas like someone like Breece is going to throw a stiff arm and drag some of these guys. Oh, we did get a super chat. Let me do my job.
Okay, there you go.
All right, Brian Newell, $4.99. Thank you, Brian. Bills are a legit playoff team that we handled. This is a playoff defense! Exclamation mark. I should have read that with more enthusiasm. What do you need to see for this to be a playoff offense too? Go Jets. All right, Joe, you go ahead and answer it.
I think what we saw last game, right? Like, I don't think we've kind of already like harped on this, so I don't want to continue to say it. I think you want to see 90% of what you saw last game of the ball control offense, simple concepts, screens, orbit motions, handed off on some orbits, a trick play or two a game, which you didn't really see a lot of this game, but lumped in with this type of offense versus a good defense, which is fine because they played ball control, they kept a good quarterback off the field. Throw those 3, 4, 5 deep shots a game and hit on them. And I'm not saying necessarily deep shots. It has to be, an out and up or a sluggo, and you have to hit a 90-yard bomb. But if you hit a seam route for 30 yards, or if you hit a dig for 20 yards on a crease or wherever it is, like, that's an explosive play to me. So I want to see some more explosive plays to put up some more points. But listen, at the end of the day, if you run the same offense you just did last week, you ball control, you run the ball well, you play as good as defense as you do. It's a playoff offense because you're riding behind a playoff defense, right? Like, I don't think you need to have an offense that's crazy effective, but I think the Jets are an offense that at least this game was near, average to slightly below average. I don't really know how you necessarily quantify that by yards or whatever it may be, but they played good enough to win. That's all you necessarily need to be. Like, you don't need to be a crazy explosive offense to make the playoffs and make a playoff run if you are going to be efficient. So I would just say pretty much do what you did this game and have a couple more rollouts and explosive plays like you saw against the Titans, and that's pretty much all you need, with this defense. It's the defense is going to carry them though.
I completely agree with everything you're saying. I would also add something that you can't control is get a little bit healthier, right? Like, get a little bit more depth on the offensive line, get Corey Davis back because Corey Davis is better than Denzel Mims. He just is. And then also in terms of what you can control, you got to get Elijah more involved. Yes, he played more slot in this game. And yes, like, obviously benching him in a game, Denver, that's not good. He played so little in New England. This guy needs to be on the field. You drafted him 34th overall for a reason. Look at some of his plays from his rookie year. This guy needs to play more, and he needs to be the primary read on some plays, right? Like, there's no reason why you can't use him in a similar way to how Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle are used sometimes, right? Get him running some stick routes over the middle, right? Like, okay, for example, I'm not saying obviously Conklin on that one play where Zach gets it out with a lot of anticipation, Conklin's in line there, but there's no reason that like a quick little 3-step drop like that, Elijah Moore can't be the primary read, get the ball in his hands really quickly. He snags it with his hands, and then he's so quick transitioning from run to catch. He can get you 5-10 yards after that, pick up some first downs. I mean, this guy can be a chain mover, getting him the ball quickly, right? It's like, so if we're going to get the ball out of Zach's hands quickly, make some plays where Elijah Moore is like the first, second read in a concept. All right. Yeah. Stop just using him in orbit return motions. All right. Like, yeah, sure. You can do that every now and then. And every now and then you throw it to him actually, on the swing route, because he can make stuff happen there too. But get the dude out in space, get him one-on-one matched up with a linebacker. He's going to make one of those guys misses. Right. Think about Pittsburgh, right? Like, he had at least one deep catch on like an over route. Run him more on those routes from the slot, right? All right.
That's a big thing. Digs, overs, drags over the middle. Like, that's what he did.
Those are some of his best. So. Those are some of his best routes. So if we're talking about playoff offense, you utilize your playmakers to their skill sets. So that's what I would say in terms of what you can actually control.
Yeah, no, good answer. Now moving on to the tight ends, Kyle. Pretty generic from the tight ends, but minus a lot of really good blocks. I think, Conklin had a good route or two. He caught the ball when he was targeted. So I think, like, for lack of a better term, kind of chalk from them. But again, you have to. It's not a thing that's sexy, but their blocking is contributing in a big way to this run game. And somebody mentioned it before. It might have been Chris. I think it was Chris who mentioned, like, oh, we were thinking the Jets were going to have a fullback, and we really haven't seen that in this offense. But I think they're kind of supplementing that fullback role with the tight ends, with Uzama and with Conklin. So you could do it in different ways. But then they've been really effective blocking. Anything to add from the top? Obviously, like Uzama, you want to see him just bring that ball down. I know it's a little bit high, But the thing was, and I said on the film review, like he didn't have to jump for that ball. He kind of put himself in a shitty position. If he just came back to the ball and attacked it instead of jumping up for it, he wouldn't have been in as a shitty spot as he was.
Yeah.
But overall, solid game for them, even though they didn't blow up the stat sheet, right?
Exactly. And if I can comment a little bit more on the fullback tight end thing. So the Jets last year, at least the games where Wesco was active, they were running him as like a traditional fullback where he's like the lead blocker on a given run. And Wesco is a big human being that will dominate you. Like if he gets ahead of steam and he squares you up properly, he can maul you over, potentially even put you in the ground or move you back a couple yards. Sometimes they'll put CJ Uzama in that type of role, but the thing with Uzama, he's not really like a guy who will move you that much. They're much more comfortable with using him as like, the sifter blocker. And like, he's very willing to like throw himself at you and take out your legs. Sometimes he misses quite badly, but other times it works pretty well. He did have one good one in this game. He had one really good one in the Packers game. So it's like,
I love his attitude too. Like I love Uzama and what he means to the team, which I think maybe I valued more than you did, just again, not putting words in your mouth. Like you don't think it's as big of a deal, but I think that team thing is big. Like, did you watch
I did the mic'd up. It was cool. It was cool. Listen,
Yeah.
there's definitely, and being on sports teams, right? Like you're right. You did value it more than I did. You're not really putting words in my mouth. You're not putting words in my mouth. I do think it's a little bit overrated in the NFL, but to say that it doesn't matter, no, it absolutely does matter. Having guys with positive energy and stuff. And I don't know, maybe I guess there could be a very valid argument that maybe in the NFL, maybe it does matter a little bit more than, or even a lot more than I'm actually saying, because in the NFL, when guys have multi-million-dollar contracts and stuff, and they could just say, fuck it, I'm getting paid anyway, my contract's guaranteed, fuck this team, they have all the more reason to not give a shit and, kind of pack up their shit, so to speak, even metaphorically. So maybe it makes all the more sense to have those guys who are going to play no matter what their contract situation is, no matter what their role is on the team. I don't know. Maybe I'm not valuing it enough, and I need to reconsider that. But yeah, his attitude is very good. But yeah, so go to put a end on the whole fullback thing. The thing about so obviously the 49ers had some really good offenses the past couple of years, especially the year they went to the Super Bowl. But they had a very unique player in Juszczyk. I mean, there's just not many players like him. So yes, when you have a player like him, you're going to use him a lot. But the Jets don't really have a guy who they want to put in the backfield, who can catch passes out of the backfield, who you could potentially hand the ball off to on any given play, who can run a wheel route. I mean, you don't have that guy. So that's why you're not seeing it as much from the Jets, and that's the way it should be. Did get another super chat from our boy, from Jan Katz-Nelson, who we saw at the game.
Yeah,
what is up, boys?
Can I say Jan is like 8 foot tall. Jan is a fucking monster. So
yeah, I told him he should be playing offensive tackle.
We need a tackle. I didn't realize Jan is as big as he is, but Jan is massive. But nonetheless, continue, Kyle.
What's up, boys? Great meeting you a couple weeks ago. Let's go Jets. Very, very generous, Jan. Yeah, pleasure meeting you as well. Unfortunately, we were gonna have the victory cigar with you, but there was no victory the week that we met you. Yeah,
no, he walked over and said, "Hey, I'm Jan." I'm like, motherfucking Shrek walked over here. He's a big guy. So no, it's cool though. It's cool. You need to come and get whooped a little bit in some cornhole. Kyle rarely plays, but when he does, he gets destroyed a little bit. Kyle has a very boxy throwing motion we need to work on. No consistency.
Yeah, I'm not a great thrower.
No. I'm not.
But Joe, come on. Tom was carrying you both those games.
Last on the
you outplayed me for sure, but come on, Tom was.
Well, the thing is, so you're already fabricating this because I did not play with Tom. I play with Matt that entire time.
Okay,
and
that's Tom's dad, right? He's the best player there.
He's not Tom. No. So the funny thing was, Tom, or actually Vinny and Tom's mom actually went on a run last game, like a 5-game run, and then right before we went to the stadium, me and Matt were like, "Nope, can't have this shit." So then we beat him before going to the stadium. But yeah, Jan, it was definitely fun to meet you. Pop over to J1 any other tailgate, and obviously we have to bring some extra food because Jan can probably throw down a little bit just based on relative to his size. But no, definitely appreciate that. Now moving to receiver, Kyle. We kind of talked about it a little bit. Elijah Moore, we want him to be more involved. Mims, yes, he's involved more. He had a big catch. it wasn't the best catch I've ever seen in my life. Like, yeah, it was cool that he caught that ball, and the moment made it like maybe a little bit overrated, but the route was okay at best. The catch
Anybody
was
catches it. That's not the
okay.
That's not the Mims that we were so high on in college.
It
The Mims we
bounced.
saw in college is long arms. Let's go extend those long arms. Catch with the hands. That
It bounced off of his chest into his hands. You don't ever want to catch a ball like that. He had the drop on the dig route. The vertical route should have he got his hands on it, and if he ran the route better, it's probably a 50-yard completion. He had a false start. So are we saying 2.5 drops, a body catch, and a false start is a good game for Mims? Like I can't say that.
especially that false start came after you had so much time to get your play together.
12
and
minutes.
You knew what the play was going to be, what the formation was going to be. You weren't tired. There's no reason that should happen.
Yeah, so I would say if you, cause people are like, oh, you're negative on Mims. Can you say that 2.5 drops, a false start, and a body catch is a good game? Like I get the position he was in, and he had a good blocking. Let's be fair, but still a negative game. I would say it wasn't great.
And somebody say, well, it's a false start. It's 5 yards. The thing is he's had how many false starts or illegal formations,
Like a
penalties over the past couple of years? It is an absurd amount for the amount of snaps he's played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it hurts the team. Past that, Garrett Wilson, like you said before, like there was a reason I think he was my number 1 or 2 stud this game. He did whatever he wanted with the Bills defense. Really good seam route. He's just so explosive, man. Like his ability to get yak. The one play where he caught the out route.
And he peeks the defender before he catches it.
Yeah, should I show that one?
Yeah, show that one.
Is there any other plays that you want to highlight about
you
one
did
Garrett Wilson?
I don't know if you want. I mean, you could maybe show the seam route. I don't think you showed the seam route.
Oh no, I'm just talking about talking about it. Not necessarily.
Oh, duh. I thought you were gonna pull it up.
Yeah.
No. Let's see. Any ones off the top of my head?
I think
there was also the fade, which wasn't in. He couldn't catch it in bounds, but he also did snag it with one hand, which pretty impressive, even though it didn't count.
I think this is a play.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah. Like so, no, I don't think a lot of people are going to realize that. But if you realize I talked about this on the film review again, just with more detail. But like based on the angle of this guy coming downhill, you're expecting him to be coming downhill at an outside angle. So if anything, he's going to be weak to the outside, to an inside breaking, just juke or move. So that's why he's probably going to go inside regardless. But if you watch his head when he catches this ball, it's not like he just guesses. You could see the lettering on his helmet right there to the right side. He peeks back at the defender. Now, whether he sees him in his peripheral vision or he just doesn't see him to the inside, that's why he goes to the outside, aided with the fact that just based on the angle the defender was when he was going to catch the ball, probably leads him to being outside and weaker to an inside move regardless. But he's ridiculous.
And by the way, no coach is going to teach you to do this because most players couldn't do this. And if most players did try to do this, they're going to like drop the ball or fuck something up. Like it's not going to go well for them. He's one of these guys, and we've all kind of played with one of these guys at some point in our playing career, although obviously not to this level, where they just have like, they have God-given athletic ability, but they also they might not be the smartest person. And I'm not at all. This is not me criticizing Garrett Wilson as like a student or whatever in the classroom or anything. I'm just saying like they have some like football IQ or any sport level IQ that you just kind of can't teach. Like they're just like an athlete. They're a baller. They're a gamer, whatever expression you want to use. He is that. And you saw it with that play right there. It's just like, it's like stuff you can't teach, but then he is also like a really good athlete on top of it.
And he wants it too. Yeah. He wants it.
He wants it too. And like, like apparently he was a really good basketball player too. Like, and as was his dad. And then like, you could see like, think about like when he ran that one of those end rounds against the Patriots. I think it was the play where he got the face masked, but it wasn't called. Obviously, the Patriots don't call it. Like he looks like he's throwing some crossover moves. Like he's crossing somebody over with a basketball on that play.
Can we talk about the penalties too? I highlighted in that Patriots game that the Judon thing wasn't a penalty, and then this game, how the fuck do you call some of these penalties on the Jets? And then Zach Wilson's running, getting tackled, and you have a clear helmet to helmet that should have been a first down. They don't call that play. The ref's staring at it. Like, how is that not a penalty?
Yeah, so the one play to Zach Wilson where he threw a sidearm like screen pass. I mean, it said if he's the Patriots quarterback, that would have been a flag. And then I noticed that a gazillion other Twitter accounts had basically the same tweet because everybody else thought the same thing. Like if that was Mac Jones, it would have been called. And then this, dude, I mean, like, this is much more of an egregious, like, helmet to helmet thing. Like, you already got one guy wrapping him up, right? Versus Mac Jones, that one's called, but this one isn't. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Dude, like, at the end of the day, like, and I said it on the review, like, I don't, when it's like the last second thing where a guy comes to wrap up last second and Wilson ducks his head because he's trying to avoid him and it's incidental helmet to helmet. Okay, I get that. But in what point did Wilson change the level of his helmet to dictate this helmet to helmet shot? Like, this is clear helmet to helmet, and it wasn't called. They're standing right fucking there. Like, how? And I said all the time, I get the league is soft, but if it's going to be consistent, I'm okay with that. But the problem is it's not consistent.
And by the way, so as you said, number 4's got him wrapped up already. Whoever 55, who's that Boogie Basham, he could have like easily just like jumped on him like without leading with his helmet and just wrapped him, like, bear hugged him to bring him down. That would have worked easily. But he literally is like aiming his helmet at a guy who's up. Versus, what is CJ Mosley supposed to do when Mac Jones is kind of like almost basically diving for a first down? Like, literally, like you would allow him to get a first down there. I don't know.
Yeah, and then even the play where this is the play too, where like you're talking about a step and a half for a defender. How is Judon not called here? Like if you're gonna call it a step and a half, this is a step and a half. I mean, half.
So apparently,
lunge hit him.
So I think what was it? Salah said that the refs told him that JFM hit him too hard. So they also factoring the level of hit factor. Okay, well, if that's the case, Zach Wilson was hit a hell of a lot harder by that guy, number 55, Boogie Basham, than CJ Mosley hit Mac Jones. Right?
It's ridiculous, but
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, let's move on.
By the way, Chris is calling Garrett Wilson Gumby. I've actually used that expression for CJ Mosley in the past. The way that he can like let's say that he's bending around and he's trying to bend around like a pulling offensive lineman, and then he loops around to tackle a running back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and he was better this game. The Pats game he struggled. But moving on to, I guess, the defensive line. Q, a little bit more quiet this game, but he still made an impact. He still had a sack, so still a good game from Q. JFM, I can't think of any plays like great from JFM on the top of my head. Rankins, it sucks he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. We talk about that.
JFM, you highlighted one play where basically the Jets, I think it was towards the end of the game. It might have been on a James Cook run, where they ran it to the outside and the Jets, basically all the Jets defenders got outside.
Yeah.
JFM worked nice to get outside on that play.
Yeah, they're doing a really nice job, like noticing like down blocks and pullers. Like they're doing a really good job with that. But yeah, so decent game.
They've been one thing I wrote down in my notes is they've been so much better at recognizing trap runs this year.
For sure. As soon as they feel a down block coming and a puller, well, where's the run going? Like
Solomon Thomas did a really nice job on one, or was it Shepard? I think I want to say Solomon Thomas. One of those two did a really good job on one of those runs this past game.
Solomon Thomas had that play where he made Josh Allen pull down that ball too, where he was going to throw it and he sees a flash of Solomon Thomas and he pulls it down and he might have only hit that play. So defensive line overall, good. Dude, and again, Q and Lawson was, I would say, disrupted this game, even though he didn't show up on the stat sheet. And then we have to give credit to JJ. Like how many defensive linemen, outside linebackers make that sack or on Josh Allen, him rolling out like that? It's few and far between. He breaks that tackle 9 times out of 10. So
there's just so much. I mean, like Allen, he's so big, he moves so well, and there's so much open space there. That is a hard play to make. You
have to give JJ credit, and that was one of the biggest things about him. I would say, I think again his pass rushing is overrated by people, but in general, that play. What does he notice? He notices a play action. He notices a down block to his left. So he says, okay, down block to my left. Where's the quarterback most likely rolling out to? To my left. Quickly sheds it, gets out to his left. But the thing we praised him for were his power, his tenacity, and his tackle radius. We saw there his power, tenacity to chase him down, his tackle radius, and he had some smarts, obviously, to notice a down block and get outside pretty much immediately. So you got to tip your hat to JJ on that sack for sure, too. And then anything else to add from the defensive line, you can go ahead, obviously.
No, you did mention Shepard briefly before, but he's a guy who I feel like has been getting consistently better. And listen, not to say that he's been anything good or anything like that, but there's pretty decent value at that $1 million contract that he signed for. We were wondering, why did we sign him for this value? But he's lived up to it so far. So, and yeah, JJ, I mean, like, like his pass rushing will get better at time. More and more coaching, more and more, working on his plan and stuff like that. More and more time to work on it with, other guys who are, quite good at and have had some success. He's going to get better in that department. But, things like how much a player wants it, like motor, you can't teach a player to have motor. Like they either want it or they don't. He shows that he does want it, and he's good. He's good in the run game already. So, I'm excited for him for the future. We'll see.
Yeah. One thing I did notice with the defensive, and by the way, the offensive line only giving up 7 pressures. I just saw that is a good number too. But again, it aids the fact they got rid of the ball quickly. Q went up to a season high 74% of snaps, and I'm not going to say it like I think that's his max. I think about 70% is good because there was a player or two where he was just running his feet, where he was not necessarily going full bore to the quarterback. So there might be some legitimacy to him not necessarily giving it all every play. Because if he gets tired, and that's fine. It's going to happen in the NFL, especially in a game that's as high stakes as that and all that. Even though they kept him off the field a lot, but like there were a player or two where Q was gassed and you could tell it. So I think 70% is a good snap count for Q. Now past that, and I'll get to we'll finish out the position groups a little bit and then get to the chat and then we'll close out. Good thing I gave us 3 hours, by the way. That's exactly why.
Unfortunately, Q. Just talking about. Rankin's not being here. I mean, the most similar player in terms of just skill set to Q is Rankin. So him not being out, you can expect that snap. You can probably expect it to be above 70% quite consistently, I would say, going forward for that reason.
Yeah. Linebackers, Sherwood when he stepped in was fine. You had JJ had he had the one play he was held on actually the Josh Allen running touchdown. But past that, Quan, not much. Quincy, again, he's being covered up by the defensive line at times. Quincy, if you watch the film reviews, has been struggling in coverage the last couple of weeks, but he's just not being targeted, whether it be the fact that he's just not first in the progression or second in the progression or the DNs get there. But this game, he had 2 or 3 bad coverage plays where it was covered up. So Quincy gets a thumbs down for me. And then Mosley, a bounce back game from him. I thought he played pretty well in this game.
Yeah, as did I. Let's see. I don't know, man. Like I did tweet out when Josh Allen had the big run that was almost a touchdown that Sherwood just doesn't move that well. Watching the all 22, it didn't look nearly as bad as it did on the broadcast. But I guess he did have one nice play in the run game too. Although I'm forgetting the exact details of it. I don't know that I have anything else to add with linebackers. What's up?
Safeties, you can go you go first in the secondary positions. I usually go first.
So with Whitehead, not only did he have that dropped interception, there was one play, and I'm trying to remember what the exact concept was.
The Diggs play where he caught the ball on the sideline.
Well, I was thinking that so McKenzie, who's garbage, that dude also can't catch a cold. All he is a gadget end around guy, but he ran like a post corner, and Whitehead was beaten badly on it. It could have been a big play, but I can't remember all the exact details why Allen didn't go there. Could have been the D line. It could have been he was under pressure, but Whitehead was beaten badly on the play. You probably highlighted it too. I
forget. Exactly.
I don't know if it was that one. It could. There was one play in your review where you were talking about how Whitehead was playing way too shallow on a game. No. It's not the same play because you also highlighted a play where Whitehead. I feel like Allen might have hit Diggs or one of the other receivers in the honey hole, the cover 2, and Whitehead was retreating back way too far, and he didn't.
That was the play. That was the play that was called holding on the first play of that. Okay. Yeah. He just I don't get how he's playing so deep there. Like so, Whitehead has been playing bad. I don't want him back for $7.5 million next year. I don't care how hard he hits at times because other times he misses the tackle. Joyner, and he had the pick. Great. It was a really bad pick by Allen where he was actually kind of late to get to the flat. And I said it.
Any player should make that pick.
And
it's
with
a bad
that,
play by the quarterback.
With that being said, he had the aggression. But if Josh Allen's on target and sees him there, he floats up all over his head. Why? Because because Whitehead expands with that with Knox. But then he doesn't have his eyes on him. He goes too shallow. If he saw him there, he floats over his head, and it's probably a touchdown. So it was a good result, but the process was not good how he got there. That cover 2 play was not good. Joyner.
By the way, I think you also mentioned this in your review. I don't know if you said it just now. If you did say it just now and I didn't hear you, my apologies. But I think you also said too that even though like, yeah, he does get there, like he did bite a little bit hard on the run action, and he was a tad bit late getting out to cover Knox. So like if the play was executed better by the Bills, there's several negative things within that play to get on with Whitehead about. Anyway, so
and then you're talking about Joyner, who again, I know he had like a nice play or two in coverage, but overall he's really inconsistent too, where again I think he's covered up by the safeties and the rush in general. He had a play or two this game where I think it was the play, was it Diggs on the left sideline where like it's another 2 and he's playing so freaking far off. He breaks out on a corner and is just wide open on the sideline. Or maybe that was a Pats game, but there's at least a play or two from coverage from Joyner I didn't like in this game, but we can move on. I guess we can mention Ashton Davis. Nice 2-yard run up the middle on special teams if we're going to throw him in there. Corners, Kyle, what do you think about the corners?
Yeah, so we did talk about them a little bit already. Sauce and man coverage. So it's interesting how the Jets coaches decided to play this a little bit differently. So Sauce obviously played a good amount on the right side this game where he's pretty much exclusively left and DJ's pretty much exclusively right, but they wanted to have DJ on Stephon Diggs. I don't know how much of that was altered by the fact that the first play of the game was like a big catch by Diggs where he beat Sauce. I'm interested to hear you break that down, even though you did say it on the review, why exactly that happened. But, Sauce in man coverage is better than zone at this point. We knew that coming in, but yeah, he was locking Gabe Davis up in man coverage. DJ Reed, listen, Stephon Diggs is always going to be a hard cover, but a little bit too much of the hopping back. Even the big throw down the sideline on a 3rd down where Reed did break it up. There was a good amount of separation on that play.
That was another play where if the ball was, if there wasn't movement forced by the defensive line in the pocket, he's probably beat there. And I can show that play. Like if it's timed well, and he didn't have to step up, he's beat. So they played well, and they're very, very good. I think they're definitely probably the best, if not the second best duo in the NFL. But Sauce on that play, he gets a little bit flat-footed, and he said based on his film study, he expected an in-break or an out-break, and Diggs did a really nice job of eating up that ground, short strides him and breaks past him because he's flat-footed. That last play of the game, or 2 of the last plays of the game, I said Sauce let the guy get in his blind spot, could have got beat. And in the last play of the game, great, he caught up to him, but he should have never been in that position. Overall, still a very good game from him. And Reed was good this game, but that pass breakup, again, you're putting yourself in a bad position. Like he was beat there, and luckily he was able to catch up, which is awesome. But let's play a little bit safer and not put ourselves in position there. And Reed has been very, very good. But his problem is when he opens, he gives guys too much room horizontally, and he starts to peek into the backfield. And sometimes he lets guys either work into his blind spot or build up too much speed because his eyes are focused in the backfield, doesn't realize how fast they're coming at him, and then he has to catch up, which at his size, at 5'8", 5'9", makes it a little bit difficult to break up plays deep down the field, which he did this time, but I still don't love the process of getting where he got to. So they played well, but there's still a few plays I want to see them clean up. I'm not asking for perfection. I'm not. But if we're talking about the best, let's talk about making them the best. I'm not trying to – I'm being nitpicky, but that's what you're going to get with the receivers and corners, especially from this show. But nonetheless, little bit – I want to see them play a little bit safer and smarter in deep coverage. I think that's their weakness now, where they haven't been burned by it recently, but they're going to. It makes me a little bit nervous. And with Reed, you saw him get beat multiple plays on by Diggs. Why? Because of the thing I talk about all the time: no man's land, wait on the heels, opening up too early because he's not getting shuffles in because he hops backwards, and then Diggs got the he beat him a few times, but overall still solid. Anything to add there? We'll get to, I guess, coaching, special teams. We'll kind of wrap up. We'll do some lightning.
I mean, if you want to talk about Michael Carter the second, I can't really think of any plays positive or negative from him this game,
which is good for a corner.
Yeah,
good for a corner. Past that, okay, like we can give credit to the Jets coaching staff. Obviously, LaFleur, we've talked about it plenty in this game. We don't have to talk about it anymore. From the defense, obviously. They had a good game plan. A lot of cover 6, a lot of cover. They adjusted to a lot of cover 2 in the second half and just kept everything in front of them and made the Bills nickel and dime them. So we give them credit for that. Past that, special teams, Greg Zuerlein, listen, at the end of the day, hit a 53-yarder, went 2 for 2 on, which I still don't have like a ton of faith to just maybe being a Jets fan, a battered Jets fan. But he hit 2 for 2 field goals, 1 for 1 extra point. You had Mann who slipped on the first play of the game on the kickoff, which was sketchy. But past that, he had 3 punts for like 150 yards, 2 inside the 20. So he had
It still feels like he messes up one kick a game. Okay. He at least shanks 1 punt a game, and he didn't have a shank this game, but he had that.
It counts as a shank, right? You know?
Yeah. So it's like, come on, man, be a little bit more consistent, man. And
come on, man, be more consistent, man.
To your point about like having like ultimate faith in a kicker, what kicker are you absolutely like super faithful that he's going to nail this kick, other than maybe like Justin Tucker?
But yeah, let's say the guy wearing purple in Baltimore. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Do you have anything else to add from that? We'll get to the chat really quickly. We have a couple minutes left.
No, nothing else.
Okay. Let's see. I'm about 40 minutes behind, but the chat always dies down a little bit at the end, which I completely understand. I ain't trying to look too far into the future, but can we all agree that a healthy Breece, James Robinson, and Michael Carter is the best? Yeah. I would say that's the best trio in the NFL. Even though if the Browns are to keep Kareem Hunt, I think that with Dearness Johnson, if he's still the 3, I would still argue that's probably the best with Chubb and those guys. But Breece Hall is a stud as well. But I'm giving Hunt over Carter. So I think that would be their only true competition. Maybe would be the Browns, just because of the strength of their 1-2.
Yeah, I don't think Hunt's going to be a Brown next year. So
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so either. Brian Newell, damn, only catching the end again. We'll watch it. It's like so funny that people are like always surprised. It's like, oh shit, they're on. It's like every Thursday. It's now some we go a little bit earlier, obviously, because of things like this where I knew we were gonna go for 3 hours and I got to sleep before work. But 5, mostly 6 though on every single Thursday. And then in the offseason, Kyle, you're probably gonna do every other week again. I'll do the one solo every other week. I don't know. The thing I was thinking about this when I was driving around at 3 o'clock in the morning the other day though. I'm like, last year we had all these draft picks, 4, 10. Do we trade up? Do we do this? This year we're gonna have like pick 25, and like I think 4 other picks. Like we're gonna have a low first, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth, and I think that's it. So like, what the hell? What do we talk about for months? Like the Jets are we thrive in the offseason because we suck so bad. We can't rely on that. We're gonna get creative in this offseason.
Less free agent. Listen, the Jets always make it interesting, man. It'll
that's
probably be Elijah Moore trade talk or something like that.
We're gonna have like 1 or 2 free agent signings and then retaining our own guys. So we're not gonna have like breakdowns to talk about these guys. Like it's gonna get a little bit boring. I don't know.
The Jets never make it boring, Joe. They always find a way. Watch them make like some blockbuster trade or something.
I'm okay with boring. For Laremy Tunsil, we Dwayne Brown back to
What would you give up for Tunsil? Seriously, what would you give up for Tunsil?
I think you have to give up a first round pick, right?
Probably, yeah.
Would you? Okay, let's say it's 25. You give up 25 and Dwayne Brown for Tunsil? I do. Now that's assuming we could. Listen, at the end of the day,
have to trade Dwayne Brown? I don't know that you'd have to trade him.
Well,
would they even want him? I mean, because that's a big contract to take on.
That's the benefit. Now the problem is, realistically,
by the way, you'd be trading him back to his old team. That's where he first started.
Back to the Texans. Well, the thing is, I don't think the Jets can fit Laremy Tunsil. Like we're talking about the Jets having like $30 million in cap space, $25 million in cap space. They got to sign Huff. They got to sign Q. They got to sign McGovern. They got to sign a couple of guys here. Can they fit a Tunsil there too, and fit the draft class, and fit maybe a linebacker or safety? I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Again, Fant's not here, so you don't have Fant. You don't have a starting right tackle. Basically, you don't have a center right now.
I don't think they're going to go the Tunsil route. I think they'd be more likely to acquire someone like Conklin or something. I can't see them giving up a first round pick for a tackle who's still good, but he is close to 30 years old. I think Joe Douglas is too smart for that. He does believe in acquiring value, and if there is a value trade, and he's certainly a great player, but is that the type of value that you want? And then, how close is he to wanting a new contract too?
Yeah.
Sometimes when you trade for a veteran, they're like, okay, we'll give me a new contract too.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be that's we're gonna need like a cap expert this offseason, because with the money the Jets have, I don't know how they get Q, Huff, McGovern, maybe a new right tackle.
That's my friend Miguel. Miguel knows a lot about the cap.
Two starting safeties. Like unless you're bringing Joyner back for $1.5 million, Quan is gone after this year. So like they have a lot of guys to sign and not a lot of money to do it, especially considering that Quinn Williams has a massive contract coming. So it's going to be interesting. That's what we're going to be talking about a lot this offseason. Let's see. What I want to see from this offense is control the clock, keeping the defense, well rested. That's what happened pretty much last game. Mims is developing. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. More. I'm just trying to find stuff here. Black Lotus. Jets X Factor, new sub. Eagle Fang brought me here to tell Joe Blewett sweep in fantasy football. Dude, fantasy football. I literally had like all of my guys injured where like I didn't care about picking up backups. Like Jonathan Taylor was out or injured or whatever. Ezekiel Elliott was out or injured. So I was playing with guys who were going to get like 4 points. And I was like, I don't care. Like I'm not cutting guys on the bench, especially in a 16-team league, to have to pick them up next week when they're gonna get claimed. So like I'm gonna concede this win here. Like there's no way. But I'm still like in 5th place or something like that. But Eagles team is stacked. Like Eagle I don't know how he gets teams as good as he does, but he might win it again. Like he has
Eagle Fang should be like a professional fantasy footballer.
He has his team is ridiculous. Like let me just again
and he I remember on draft night he was clutch to pick up DeAndre Hopkins. I wasn't even thinking about him.
Yeah, I did in one of my other leagues, but listen, 16 teams, he has just his receivers are ridiculous. Like this is all you need to say. But he has Mahomes, Hopkins, Brown, and Justin Jefferson in 16-team league. And then he has, decent running back, Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. His tight ends suck, but he deserves some credit. I give him that, but you never know. London is pretty good. I guess Drake London. Yeah, Drake London's good. I like him a lot as well. Let's see. I don't know shit about the 2022. Yeah, how nice is it? And some people are talking about this in the chat, Kyle. Like, it's so nice not to be talking about the draft in November. The thing was, like, we were thinking about the draft, and it's not even October, November last year. It's September. Like when you lose to the Panthers, when you get blown out at home versus the Pats, then you get blown out on the road against the Broncos. Like we were thinking draft early last year. Like it's not even like the season's over by week 4 or 5. The last 6, 7, 8 years for the most part. The fact that we're talking about playoffs, like it is crazy. Like it's like to be 6-3 at this point, it is like I don't really think we're living in it, so we don't appreciate it as much. But compared to the last couple of years,
the 2020 season, how many months were we talking about quarterbacks for? We started in September talking about quarterbacks, and it didn't stop until April. Yeah,
and even last year, we had faith in the team, but you start off 0-4, 0-5, whatever it was. I think they were like they beat the Titans, right? But you beat the Titans, and we're like, oh, the Jets are, okay, it took them a couple of weeks. We're going to go to London, and we're going to beat up the bad Falcons, and stinker. And we're like, fuck, never mind, So, and then you have Zach get hurt. So it's crazy. This game, too, which I think Matt brought up here. Remember when Q almost blew out his knee, staying on the sideline?
Oh, my God.
Dude, that play, I was like, are you got to be kidding me? Like, Q, big Bayday coming, and, of course, his brother takes him out. You had Reed. And
he's not in a play that he's not even in on? Oh, dude.
Yeah, that'd be such a Jets thing. And you had Reed, too, that one play where C.J. Mosley is diving for the ball and, like, takes his knee out, and he's not down on the ground grabbing his leg. I'm like, no, like, come on. So, thank God they avoided those injuries. But, good point, Matt. I forgot to bring that up because I was scared shitless as well when I saw that. Skycam Gate. Or Skygate? I don't know. We always getting cheated on. That was crazy. I've never seen anything like that. Let's see. Saw subscribe what happened in the post game.
Makes you nervous because think about it. Like those cams, like obviously go over the players at various points. If one of those things fell from the height that it's at, it's a big camera. That could really, really hurt someone.
Oh yeah.
Even if they're wearing a helmet. I mean, like,
dude, you could drop a 1 pound weight from that high and you're freaking killing somebody. That thing has to weigh 20, 30, 50, 50 pounds, something like that. Yeah. Like, can you drop is it like actually like a penny from the Empire State Building? Your person's gonna die.
I heard that too. I mean,
is it true?
From the Empire State Building, the amount of speed that it would get, I'm sure it could kill someone.
I don't know though, because like how fast can you throw up? Like how fast do you think you throw a penny? Because like
it's not about you throwing it; it's about the amount of it's going to get faster and faster.
Does it though? Does it gain speed after a certain point? I'm not a physics guy, but like when I was skydiving, you fall at 120 pretty much the entire way down. So it's like you gain speed. Don't you get to a max speed and that's it? Like, so
we're not the
what,
two people that should be answering this
no,
question.
but at what point does it get to max speed? Like 60 feet? So does it matter from 60 feet or the Empire State Building? I logically, I don't think so.
Good
I don't
point.
think so.
I don't know.
Yeah, we didn't go
Might
from
be just one of
120
those urban legends.
to 130 to 140 to 150. Like, I gotta look that up now. Let's see. Since there's not that many.
Carmelo said, only if it dropped on Bill Belichick the week prior.
Since there's not that many holes to fill in this team with the first round in the draft, who would be? It's hard to say now because I haven't paid attention to anybody. I know nobody from the draft. Linebacker, safety, offensive lineman. That's what I'm expecting. Happy tanking. I think it's tanking. Who I said before. It wasn't the guy. Tanking's always like, oh, I always miss the stream. It's the same time every week. Tanking minus this week. It's an hour earlier, but I can go back and watch the beginning. I'm sure if there's anything that's like other show I've seen you guys, it'd be great. Hopefully, let us know. Happy tanking. I would like to see your comment after. Dwayne Brown needs offseason shoulder surgery. True as well. No way. Give up a 2023 first. Got to get center Jarrett Parrish from Notre Dame with ABT type talent. Yeah, we'll see. We're a long way away. Is there anything else in here? The trenches on D. Okay. Let's see.
Was Rusty big on signing Linderbaum?
A big Linderbaum guy? I forget. Maybe Linderbaum and Kyle Hamilton.
He definitely had his good. And listen, he seems to be doing quite well for himself in Baltimore. But there was a decent amount of Jets fans that want him. Yeah, the Penny thing was debunked. I saw that.
I think so, right? It doesn't gain speed. Like, maybe from like the upper atmosphere to lower atmosphere when gravity gets stronger, the air gets heavier. Like maybe that, but I don't know. Nonetheless, Kyle. Enough talking about pennies falling from the Empire State Building. We've been on for 3 hours now. So final thoughts. And I'm assuming we will be back. Well, we'll be back next Thursday talking about whatever during the bye week. Maybe we'll get Nani to come on this one. We could kind of do like a round table, maybe some mid-season awards, maybe just bullshit with you guys. Maybe we'll do call-ins next week. Maybe we can do call-ins next week. So I don't really have anything to talk about.
It'd be fun.
So we'll figure it out. Maybe Nani has some call-ins. We'll talk about it in the week coming up. But Kyle, last thoughts.
Well, it's good to be winning and to be taken seriously, making football fun again. I would say we don't say this enough, but subscribe to the channel. Right? You were saying the subscriptions have been down a little bit. Well, subscribe. Hey, listen, if you got 3 hours of content and you enjoyed the conversation, hit the damn subscribe button. I know there's a lot of Jets YouTubers out there, but I don't know. Maybe we're a little bit different, Joe. Maybe we're better than some of them. I don't know.
Oh, the YouTube subscribers just climbing just steadily, just very.
If you can subscribe to some of these other channels, subscribe to us too. Maybe give us a shot. You only got so many hours in a day. I don't know. Listen in 2 times speed, but give us a shot and subscribe to the website jetsxfactor.com. Free month worth of a subscription. I promise you, it's worth it. The Blewett film reviews alone is worth the ticket price. But then there's other good stuff on there as well. Michael Nani is killing it with a great amount of work over there. Anyway, I don't have anything else to say. Thank you.
Yeah. Next Thursday, again, probably do call-ins. I think that's what we're going to do. We'll do call-ins every once in a while, but hopefully we might get one person, we might get 10. I don't know. Sometimes it's interesting. But with that being said, I think so watch out for that. Watch the film review. If we sign anybody, I'll be on top of it, do a film review of that. I think I'm going on Play Like a Jet to do a Sauce breakdown, I think, soon. I'm going on Jets Talk 24/7 next Monday night, I think, for that call-in show. So stay tuned.
Be sure to thank him for the gift.
Then, no, that is definitely not on there. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you soon.